revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised.
What is in your life's blueprint?
What up? What up? What up? It's your boy Denai. Please make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as soon as you come in here. This video is going to be all about Karmelo Anthony. I heard the craziest thing from a YouTuber who is currently at the case. Said that a black juror stood up and said that I cannot be responsible for sending a black man to prison. Listen, I feel like sometimes we as black people, we're too honest at the wrong times. This is a system that has always inherently been against black people. You think white people or Asian people that's selected to be on the jury is completely honest, especially when it comes down to their people? Absolutely not. They tell little white lies. That's why it's called the white lie. And it applies to every single race, because sometimes you got to go along to get along. You think Diddy did not benefit from all the black people being on the jury? They did not want to convict him for RICO to put him in jail forever. Do you think the 4 defendants from Julio Fulio's trial did not benefit from the black people that were on the jury? Yeah, they found them guilty and sent them to prison for the rest of their life, but it was a black woman as the foreperson who was like, I'm not going to unalive these young black men because I have black kids myself. Mind you, it was a black judge who gave Karmelo a bond. So now the jury has been minimized from 600 all the way down to 250. And probably by the end of today, the judge said they probably go all the way to 10 p.m. tonight to get the 12 jurors plus the 4 alternatives. But we need to have a real conversation about this. He could have had a black juror, and that black juror decided to reveal, I can't send this person to prison for the rest of my life. Well, if you felt that way, you should have fought to get on the juror so that you can make sure that that would not happen. And so some people can say that that's a morally corrupt statement. I got all the information for you guys, starting with what happened with the jury pool, starting with pointing out who's actually supporting Karmelo outside the courthouse, the height and weight difference between Karmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf, allegations that Hunter Metcalf also participated in jumping Karmelo Anthony, this notion of self-defense, some statements that Charleston White said, and most importantly, what happened in court today. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Also, I'm live streaming on Clubhouse to give an intellectual perspective, okay? You guys met the Clubhouse personalities. On Monday, every Monday, we're doing Messy Monday, where we cover drama, true crime, politics, trending topic, and introduce you guys to some more polarizing, entertaining content creators. But this video is all about Karmelo Anthony, okay? So without further ado, thank you so much for being here, Dominique. Thank you so much, everybody on Clubhouse, for being here. Just raise your hand if you have any comments, opinions. If you have a difference of opinion than me, you are allowed to come on this stage and state it, okay? All races, all voices is welcome here. What's up, Dominique? How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm super duper excited about this conversation because, you know, a lot of people are not taking this case serious. And many people pointed out that, oh, this case shouldn't be about race. I feel like anytime a black person's life is in the hands of a system, a race has a lot to do with it, regardless if the crime itself was racially motivated. This is systemic racism that we're talking about. So in the state of Texas specifically, Collin County, Texas, where this crime occurred, where Karmelo Anthony was arrested, is predominantly white, that has a real big wealth gap between minorities and black people. Let's be completely crystal clear about that. Even Karmelo Anthony come from an affluent background, 2-parent household. I just want to first off and start with this clip that I seen going around of black women and black people outside of the court cheering for Karmelo Anthony, coming from all over the world, beating drums. Let's play this, and then I'm going to give commentary on top of it and ask you guys your opinion as well.
I decree, Karmelo Anthony is free. I declare, Karmelo Anthony is free. I declare, I decree.
Wow. And then on the other side, they got nothing but white people with a whole poster of Carmelo and of Austin Metcalf saying, "We deserve better. We deserve better." And they have one black man who's dark as fucking oil sitting there with the Confederate flag, waving it, you know, right in front of these white people, in front of a picture with Austin Metcalf. So to me, on his face, this is controversial in itself. And it's always, oh, hold on, that's not somebody black. That's somebody that has a black mask on and a white hand. You know, that's one of them Proud Boys that'll go and dress in all black ski masks and rob up places and unalive people and do it in the guise that my identity is hitting. So as long as I have a black mask on, even me looking at this prior to looking at the hand, I was like, oh, this is a black person, but that's somebody white. So yeah, race definitely is a big factor in this case. And it kind of reminded me of what me and Dami was talking about earlier, how the Asian man chased down the 14-year-old boy for, you know, being in his convenience store when he really didn't even do nothing. Even if he did, why are you chasing people down the road and shooting this kid in the back and the jury is finding you not guilty? So race definitely plays a role in these high profile cases, always, regardless if the crime itself is about race. Okay, Dominique, did you have anything to say about people outside of the court protesting for Austin Metcalf when they don't have any personal knowledge about the crime itself, and even black people protesting on behalf of Carmelo Anthony? They don't have any personal knowledge about the crime itself. They don't know Carmelo Anthony, his background, his school record, which was subpoenaed in court. How do you feel about this case?
This is a very high profile case where racism is definitely prevalent within this particular situation. Being at the details, and I don't even need to go into the details, because those who understand, they know exactly what happened. They saw the video footage and so forth and so on. I do, however, believe that one thing about Americans and one thing about people in social media, we believe in sensationalism, right? So people are sensationalized to actually go in front of the protest and show themselves approved and whatnot, and just to make it seem like they're there, they care, they know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When in actuality they really don't. This is a black kid's life at stake at this very moment, being charged as though they are an adult, based off the fact that of self-defense. Because from my understanding, it's looked at as self-defense. He was being taunted, bullied, played around with, and so forth and so on. And he chose to defend himself at all costs. So yeah, I'm just interested in seeing what the turnout is going to look like as far as the jury is concerned, pertaining to their demographic, their race, and whatnot. We saw what happened in the state of South Carolina, my home state, South Carolina, which I am still saddened about. I'm still sick over the fact that a jury unanimously acquitted Mr. Child, Rick Child, over the killing of Cyrus Belton. I'm saddened by it. We're losing our children right now due to racial profiling and a whole lot of racial incidents that are typically happening based off the color of someone's actual skin complexion, or and it's sickening. It's sickening. That's all I have to say on that note, and I yield.
Thank you, Dominique. Anytime anybody on the stage is going to be speaking, I'm going to mute up because I think it creates an echo through my system. But tell me if it's better and if there's no echo anymore in the chat here on Clubhouse. So I appreciate you. And you're absolutely right about what's happening in South Carolina, what's happening right now with Chud the Builder in Tennessee. In this case, is out of Texas. These are southern states. And mind you, when black people were freed, the government, federal government, Abraham Lincoln had to come in to make sure that these southern states were complying with federal rules, law, regulations. And these days are extremely important that we actually focus on race. The Supreme Court just undone the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, and are redrawing these district lines to pretty much usurp any political power and control that black people could ever have in America. And one thing for sure, two things for certain that we always stressed about was the political advocacy and the right to be on a jury trial. Even before the Supreme Court did its decision, they always like to eliminate the black jurors, and it was baffling to me to hear a black juror be an honest Abe and pretty much eliminate himself when he could have actually made a substantial difference. And the prosecutors focus heavily in on that to make an example as far as padding the record and bolstering it to make sure that they come off as reasonable and impartial, when in fact it was just a slap in the face. So as published by CBSNews.com, jury consultant reveals what both sides want in Karmelo Anthony trial jurors. Okay, Tuesday evening, which was yesterday, messages will go out to as many as 250 prospective juries. Remember, it was 600 down to 250 who pretty much was summoned today to face another round of questioning to minimize it to a panel of 12 and 4 alternatives. Jury consultants say choosing those 12 people could be the most important decision both sides make during the trial. A North Texas jury consultant who's worked on high-profile cases said you might be surprised to learn what type of jury the prosecution and defense attorneys prefer. Robert Hishorn was hired as a jury consultant when Terry Nichols was accused of being Timothy accomplice in the terrorist attack in the Oklahoma City federal building. He did the same when William Kennedy Smith was accused of grape and when Kay Bailey Hutchison went to trial for criminal ethics charges, and he was hired by the defense team representing George Zimmerman, who was tried and acquitted for unaliving Trayvon Martin in 2012. So right now, CBS has went out and got a controversial consultant about jurors who, and I feel like they too are padding the record and creating these articles to pretty much perpetuate the psychological warfare against black people by selecting out of all the consultants that they could have an out-of-state consultant who consulted the George Zimmerman trial where he was found not guilty for unaliving Trayvon Martin, and that is still something controversial to this day. And they're saying I call it the reverse of George Zimmerman case. No, it's not. It's the same goddamn thing. And Hishorn said he is not involved in the Karmelo Anthony unalivement trial, but says he knows what kind of jurors the prosecutor and the defense are looking for, and it may be what you think. So what the defense want typically, pro-Second Amendment, pro-stand your ground, pro-gun jurors, and I think the defense wants men, he said. From the prosecutor side, really clear, young liberal women, the exact opposite of what prosecutors typically want, which are like the radicals, white women themselves. They stand up and antagonize issues all over the place, no matter who's protesting, whether it's ICE, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whatever it is. You always find these radical liberal white women in the mix stirring the pot. It's like they ain't got nothing else to do but to stir the motherfucking pot. But at the end of the day, in this particular situation, those white women are also mothers and giving births to the Austin Metcalfs. And so now they want them to be there on the jury to pretty much interpersonalize this entire situation in hopes to find Karmelo Anthony guilty. And Karmelo Anthony fatally unalived Austin Metcalf with a knife after an altercation during a track meet. They're minimizing the altercation when I have information and believe that Austin Metcalf and his brother was actually bullying Karmelo Anthony. Now, when it comes to stand your ground laws, very much similar to the Chud the Builder case, you can't go out antagonizing people and using a force greater than the force that you're actually met with, right? Even the police cannot pull out their pow-pow if somebody is resisting arrest or is just, fighting the police. They're supposed to start with the taser and then the baton before they go and get the lethal force, a gun or a knife. And that's how I look at stand your ground law. So hypothetically speaking, right? Matter of fact, let's actually look at the facts. Karmelo Anthony is 5'11", 162 pounds, okay? So that's actually skinny. Am I correct, Dominique? Like 5'11", 162 pounds.
5'11", 162 is definitely small. Mm-hmm.
And
Very
then
skinny. Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have the twin boys, Hunter and Austin Metcalf, both 6 feet, 200 pounds, and one come, all come. You know, when I think of Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf, I just think of Q and none. One come, all come. They're twins. They probably still showered together up until the day he was unalive. They took pictures together. They did everything together. If one got a haircut, the other one got a haircut. So, Dominic, try to stay on mute when I am speaking because it creates an echo in Clubhouse. Sorry about that. And like you got these two 6 feet, 200-pound boys, which is actually big. Those are grown size motherfucking men at the point in time. Okay. Someone said, are you a non-biased reporter or waiting for due process? I'm waiting for due process, and I'm going to be non-biased as much as possible. So being unbiased, there's certain things that I'm going to say that trigger people who are pro Austin Metcalf. And there's going to be certain things that I say that trigger people who are pro Karmelo Anthony. And that's as unbiased as it could get. Me as a reporter, putting myself reporting this case, I have to not see race, but at the same time, I have to be socially responsible to understand that even if it's petty theft, or even if it's an Asian man in the state of South Carolina mowing down a black kid and unaliving him, to Austin Metcalf, to Chuck the Builder, race is definitely involved when it comes to systemic racism, systems of opposition. The court system, mind you, the police itself was built off of the back of the KKK. The first person that did the stop and frisk or the Terry stops, who signed that, was Hugo Black. He went from Senate in Alabama with all these lynchings on his record, and during the time when he was sent to the Supreme Court. Police doctrine is made out of Supreme Court laws that give them the right to go in and alter and abolish the Constitution under the name of police doctrine, to police our neighborhoods. And so race itself is always a prevalent issue. I can be right here and say, hey, I'm not black, I'm OJ, but at the end of the day, OJ found out, nigga, you black still at the end of the day. No matter how much degrees, how many times, even Ketanji Jackson, when she was being confirmed for the Supreme Court, no matter what she accomplished, even to the point of marrying a white man and procreating with a white man, they still looked at her and said she ain't nothing but a nigga. So I do want to be clear that race is always going to be an issue when you're dealing with court cases, because the system is designed to go against black people. Now, it's kind of hard to differentiate and remove race from the actual crime in the specific situation involving Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, coupled with systemic issues is always race. People even looked at the Julio Fulio trial, where Julio Fulio is a black American who was unalived by 4 other black Americans. We still knew that race was at play in that court, even though the victim and the defendants were black people. So I hope you guys understand that. Do you have anything to say about this height and weight difference in the possibility that Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf was actually jumping Karmelo Anthony? And from your perspective, Dominique, do you feel like that justified lethal force to be used against Austin Metcalf if he was actually being jumped?
Absolutely, it does justify it to me. My opinion is that it definitely justifies it, which is why I said earlier, this is a case of self-defense. This is a case of the fact that you were being bullied by a teenager like yourself, who's bigger than you as far as size and weight is concerned, and you did what you needed to do. You exercised your right to pretty much defend yourself. Now, the measures that he took in order to, defend himself may not be appropriate, but he did what he needed to do as someone who weighs only 162 pounds, standing at 5'11".
I mean, and that, to me, I just feel like old school vibe. Like, whatever happened to the day to where you could actually take a goddamn lick, right? Let's remove race from the equation. When I was a kid growing up, I used to beat these niggas up every goddamn day. Elementary, middle school, And by the time, I came home from boot camp, when I actually learned how to fight even better, because niggas had to fight in boot camp to survive. And I went back out there wanting to fight these niggas, these same people that I beat up growing up. The next thing I know, they're threatening me with guns. I'm like, damn, you can't take a lick. You can't get beat up. I know I'm going to beat you up, but now I'm actually scared to fight you because you're going to use a blicky on me. And this further perpetuates this whole thing about what do we do with these weapons as far as guns and knives. Like the status quo is when a white person have a knife, oh, he has that because he's hunting, or he used that to cut his fishing line and things like that. And most importantly, they're not taking it to school, and if they are, they're leaving it in their car and not going into the building. So my thing in opposition to that is like, nigga, like whatever happened to the day to where you can just take an ass whooping. That's my perception of it. But at the same time, if I was in a situation where I was getting beat up and pounded on by these two big ass 6 foot, 200-pound men, and I'm little, then my defense is not only self-defense. My defense is that I really was scared for my life, and look how small I am. I would totally pull that. But at the same time, Karmelo Anthony, he immediately got arrested and they took a mugshot. There was no marks on his face. His lip wasn't busted up. There was no remarkable injuries or none of that. He looked the same way he did as when he got bailed out. Like, how's he going to justify the lack of injuries even if he was getting jumped and getting hassled by these two big ass meatheads? Like, I feel like when you use force, it needs to be met with the force that is bestowed upon you. Even the police have to comply with that. Again, like I said, if the police find you to be resisting arrest and running away and to be aggressive, they're supposed to pull their taser out. How many times have we seen aggressive people dealing with the police and, we say the police need to go down because the police should have used less lethal force like a baton or a taser. Someone in the chat on YouTube said, I thought Karmelo was 130 pounds. I did too, but I'm actually dealing with the public record. Now, I don't know if it was updated to make him look a little bit bigger, but according to, if you guys Google Karmelo Anthony and look at his football stats, the website where his highlights is on, it says that he's 167 pounds, even though I too thought he was 130 pounds. Now, if that was edited to make him look a little bit bigger, then we can go into, okay, this is a conspiracy against his rights. So hypothetically speaking, Dominique, do you feel like there's something else Karmelo could have done instead of pulling a knife out? And do you feel like maybe some people, the reasonable person, the trier of fact specifically, could say, hey, he had time to leave the situation because he told Austin Metcalf, touch me and see what he touched me. He opened his backpack and then he said, touch me and see what happens. And Austin touched him, being the meathead that he is and a hothead that he is, and he then pulled the knife out and poked him. And let's take race from the equation. As a kid, we all was in that goddamn sandbox. Let me see who gonna knock the dirt out of whose hand and who's the baddest. Me personally, I was gonna knock out the person who had the dirt and the person that I was targeting. So they knew not to do that shit to me. There's no playing with me like that. You understand? But what do you got to say to that, Dominique?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I just go on mute every time you speak, so there's no echo.
Okay. I just wanted to point out something that Rose said in the chat over here on Clubhouse. Rose said, and adults and authorities that were surrounding this incident, because there were adults and and those authority figures that were actually there. And they were told about Karmelo Anthony having being bullied and everything else by these two men, these two young boys, and so forth. Right? They ignored every threat of violence that they did receive against Karmelo Anthony. They ignored it. They ignored every sign, every threat of violence. They ignored it, and it led to this particular incident. So I pray that there's going to be. I pray for justice for Karmelo Anthony as well as his family. Look, if Rick Chow could get off on murder, after shooting a 14-year-old black kid in the back who was not even a threat to him, then I'm pretty sure Carmelo Anthony should get off as well.
Yeah, I know. Race always play a role in this. Is there an echo? Because Gigi is off of mute, even though she's not speaking. I want to make sure that there's no echo and make sure that if somebody needs to mute up, we're going to do this accordingly. Now, you made a statement about other authorities being around and not actually doing anything about the situation. Where do you get that information from? And then on top of that, like, let's go back to the sandbox. So let's go back to grade school because they were in grade school. Like, ain't nobody gonna be there to catch you with every little. Oh, this is why people hire private security or go to private school or just don't put themselves in situations where lethal force can happen to them or where they can be in trouble. This is where critical thinking comes into play, right? Critical thinking is very different from critical race thinking. And on top of that, most importantly, even if you are thinking critical from a racial aspect, common sense would tell me that, hey, I'm this black kid from another school. I'm cool with a couple of people over here. These two are twin boys that are popular and they're trying to flex their muscle. They're trying to show off whatever, I mean, this is what Martin Luther King Jr. stood for with the nonviolent approach. And that's the nature that we living in. And real niggas is not going out there to get substantial justice by offing people. If that was true, then George Zimmerman wouldn't be walking around this day and age. So are we at a point in time to where we're tired of, just taking it and moving along and being the underdog to where everybody's just out there just doing whatever we need to do to clap back? And this is where race come into play. America does not want black people to get away with, well, not necessarily get away with, but America don't want black people to start retaliating against racism by taking lethal force, specifically something like Birth of a Nation with Nat Turner. That's what, to me, Carmelo Anthony has done in his own unique individual way. And I feel like if Carmelo Anthony is found guilty, the black community is going to be uproar and outcry, and history always repeats itself. They're going to move on to something different. If Carmelo Anthony is found not guilty and walk, then that sends a message to the youth that you can stab somebody and get away with it because it's justifiable. And it also sends a message to the white community. You can't be out here picking and poking at black people anymore because there's going to be consequences had. And I think we need, as a community, we need to have that type of perception because dead ass, you can't be out here provoking people like Chug the Builder or, Carmelo Anthony in this situation and expect no consequences to be had. Leave people the fuck alone. Why do white people get to pick on, bully, and harass and violate the rights of black people in 2026, but then when we get substantial justice, however we see fit, then we're the bad person, right? Go ahead.
That's a real good question. And this is not just something that has been prevalent in 2026 or 2025 either. It's been prevalent for years. And these are questions that, we as black people have been wondering, for eons, for decades, for centuries. Why is it that certain people are actually able to get away with committing crime or committing heinous acts towards other races, and there are no reprimands or repercussions? We've done what we need to do. We vote, we protest, we do everything that we need to do, but we still, the color of our skin just allows us to still be seen as nothing, being seen as less than. They don't want us to prevail. They don't want us to do better. They don't want us to advance. They just don't want us to do anything at all. At all. So that's a real good question. I wish there was another race on the panel, because that's a good question that a white person should definitely be able to answer.
Yeah.
May I interject
I'm sorry.
for a second?
Go ahead, Gigi.
Yeah, because I'm familiar with the bullying and all that. Because my kids got bullied, y'all know, almost every day since kindergarten. Coming home with black eyes, just because they looked different. And it wasn't black kids that was doing it; it was the white ones. He was getting beat up every day on the bus, and the only thing they could say is, they'll try to talk to the children. I had to literally call the board of education. Um, and reach out to the director of the board of education, and he came all the way up from downtown, and we sat and have a conversation because at this point I'm ready to sue this little kid for constantly bullying the school, knowing about it and doing nothing, just because of differences and, like y'all said, appearances. And so, unfortunately, bullying when it comes to Karmelo, I think that he was justified to defend himself. And why not? Who wants to go and keep getting beat up in school or treated that way? And then when you take these measures, I think there should be some kind of leniency for this kid. And I hope that the justice system will appeal this because honestly, they might not. Why? Because of the color of his skin. And so I think when we bring awareness to these things, maybe they might care, maybe they might not. And so we just have to sit and watch how this play out. I feel bad for Karmelo. I think that he did what he had to do. You stand your ground. I don't know. In Philadelphia, there's a stand your ground. I don't know if that applies to children, but it does to adults. And so, and also self defense. You have a right to defend yourself. Like, how much do they expect someone to go through this? And no one's doing nothing about it, but everybody knows about it. And now, when he took measures in his own hands, now he's the bad guy. I think this is a very sad story, and my heart goes out to him and also his family, because we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so I'm going to mute.
And thank you so much, Gigi, for that. Go on mute while I speak so it doesn't create an echo. Also, to the people on YouTube, I'm coming back from a copyright strike and I crashed my own algorithm to essentially start over. So right now we're like dipped in the goo. It takes everybody on here to like the video, subscribe if you're already subscribed and they get a notification, unsubscribe and resubscribe and make sure your notification is turned on. Also, go to your settings on your mobile device and look at the YouTube app and turn your notifications on that way as well so you'll be notified. So make sure you guys like the video. We're rebuilding, and you guys know I love, building myself up and rebuilding and all this other stuff. So make sure you guys like the video, support the channel. Now back to something Gigi said, and my heart goes out to you because you have biracial kids and who's gonna grow up not feeling white enough, not feeling black enough, and they're being bullied. This is why I don't have any kids, but I already have an ideology of what I will do for my children if they're ever bullied. Before somebody could bully my child is in karate class, my child is in boxing class, my child is doing these activities and learning self-defense to where they could actually use their hands. And as far as Karmelo Anthony using lethal force and being picked on, bullied, according to information and belief, the prosecutors have subpoenaed Karmelo Anthony's school records to where they said that he was actually bad, suspended from school for fighting all the time. And I also seen a news clip of someone at the school that he went to, a girl that appeared to be Asian, said that she, knew Karmelo Anthony for fighting, but picking up a weapon and unaliving somebody was completely different. So if Karmelo has a history and a past of actually fighting and then decided to use lethal force, they're going to look at him like a juvenile delinquent, as if this behavior should have been corrected by the system. And now all of a sudden he's 17 and he's been direct fouled as an adult. Maybe this pattern of behavior of him fighting is his character trait, and now it led to lethal force. And now the system has to do something about it before he go out and take somebody else's life. That I feel like that's how the prosecutors are going to present it, and that's how the court is going to look at it. And again, this is me being completely unbiased. Now that I've put into perspective that the prosecutors have subpoenaed the school for all of his referrals and all of his disciplinary actions. And when they get that file go with you. They got a file on you from elementary throughout grade school, high school. You apply to colleges, that file go with you. So your behavior in high school can affect you and your opportunity to go off to colleges as well as in the court of law. What do you think about Karmelo Anthony having a track record of fighting people in opposition to this defense that says that he was actually being bullied when they have records that they could possibly use to paint him as a bully himself? What do you think about that?
I don't think it works out in his favor. Any event that the prosecutor does the prosecutor has those records in order to say that he could very well be seen as a bully, a danger to the students, his peers, community, et cetera, et cetera. It could not possibly may not work out in his favor. Hopefully he's able to have something to go against that, right? Whether they be letters from within his local community, his teachers, professors, other students, peers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to be able to fight against that. Hopefully, a lot of those letters that could come forward as evidence that, that can, you know, justify his actions or be able to define his character as an upright, upstanding young man, those letters indicate or specify how these incidents how these specific incidents occurred, who was the one who started the incident, who's the antagonist, who's the bully, who's the victim, how long it's been going on, where it was when it happened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is going to be a judgment of his character at this point.
That's a good point. And on his face, just that's why I tell people you got to be careful what you do because your record will follow you and your reputation will precede itself. And this is a juvenile that was direct fouled, and the only thing that they can go on is this juvenile record. And based upon his activities at school, which is the first introduction that black people have to systemic racism or some type of structure and some type of dealing with white people beyond the scope of your own neighborhood, if you have white neighbors. And I know from personal experience that a lot of what happened inside of my household, I couldn't really express myself because I was afraid of my parents. I was afraid of whatever. I would go to the school and take it out on these people who I didn't get to see every day. And this was like on the other side of the track situation. It's not unheard of for us black kids to take our frustrations out when we go to school. And so his record is going to show how he behaved at school. And we all know that you can be one way at school and completely different in front of your parents. And we all know that Karmelo Anthony, from the likeness of his mother, coming out crying and justifying what happened, even though she don't have any personal knowledge about what happened at that track meet. It says to me that Karmelo was probably that kid that would get in trouble and go and tell his parents any and every excuse to play the victim. And we see that all the time. So I don't think that his parents' statements, any community statements, or anything beyond the scope of anyone at school who have personal knowledge of his behavior at school, such as teachers, coaches, the principals, can trump what's in that record itself. That's equivalent to you being locked up and you acting a certain way and they documenting it, and then you calling home and telling your parents and telling the people that love you, that's not true. This is what happened. It seems very manipulative. And when you look at Karmelo Anthony, I just feel like he has that in him where he could appear to be very manipulative. And his mother has perpetuated that, which is why a lot of black women have come up out of their beds and spent money to go to this 2-week trial. I'm going to go on mute to see what you guys have to say. What's up, Certified? Do you have anything to say about Karmelo Anthony and the importance of black jurors in this particular case? Or Gigi, anybody that wants to speak, I'm going to go on mute.
I just want us to pay more close attention to our young boys and give them space to be emotional and things like this won't happen.
How does that correlate?
I
Hey, 1 second, Gigi. How does that correlate with this Carmelo Anthony situation, specifically the stabbing and unaliving of Austin Metcalf?
I feel like the young man got emotional and acted upon his emotions, and if his parents provided a space for him, people that knew how to control that.
I mean, but in that situation, I think if he's emotional and saying he just had an emotional outburst, that will actually, in a way, contradict his affirmative defenses of his parents. Oh, he's a good kid. He always did anything and everything. Like, I didn't see niggas go to prison and come back and have to use their poor upbringing as as a justification for why they make decisions when they were younger. And oftentimes they got to throw their parents under the bus. And I know, just as you know, that we're taught whatever happens in the black household, stay in there and don't take that information to the school or to the white folks. So I feel like if there's something happening at home that makes him so angry and makes him go to school and take his frustrations out and doesn't have any coping mechanisms to channel it outside of sports recreation, because that's the first thing that us black kids have as coping mechanisms or ways to take our frustration. Like, we go to football, we learn the rules of the sport, we tackle these people, especially the white boys. We know you fucking racist, we know you privileged, we know we come from a poor background and you're rich. Well, guess what? I'm gonna tackle you so goddamn hard and I'm gonna humble you. Like, that was my first way of putting my hands on these white folks and getting away with it, through the sports. Basketball didn't work out for me because you can't put your hands on them in basketball. And then on top of that, he's at a sports meeting, a track and field meeting. If he felt some type of way about Carmelo Anthony and had an emotional reaction to it, then use that to fuel you to go out there and beat them in your chosen sport. Because in a track meet, that's not physical. It's not football. It's not the Hunger Games. Does that make sense to y'all? I'm gonna go on mute.
Yeah, I think he's saying the same thing in different ways. If his parents provided him an outlet or taught him how to put it into his sports, and he wouldn't have reacted in the first way.
I agree with this. I feel like you can't justify what he did. He know he's wrong. 100% wrong. Right? If he went to that measure, there might be some kind of mental illness. How angry, and then if you do look in his household, what's going on that making this kid walking around with knives anyway? Or trying to just like be that angry that you feel like you got the right to do that. Something's wrong with that. I think that he might have some mental illness going on, because a normal child don't get that upset, even if you bully. That now I'm gonna kill you or stab you and things like this. We don't know. You can't justify his behavior, and we can't blame it on his mom and his dad neither. He did that, and he has to be held accountable for that. And he needs to realize what he did, and hopefully he don't ever do that stuff again. Because no, you don't get to hurt people and then cry, oh, whatever. I had a bad upbringing. Or, because my mom ain't like me, or I ain't have a daddy, or whatever the issue is. No, you don't get to do that. People need to be held accountable for the things that they do. I am all against violence.
All right,
So I feel
I hear you, I hear you, Gigi. What up, Gigi? Salute to the room. So with that being said, with everything that's going on, right before I came into this room, I was listening to the case with the young man in South Carolina that was shot down by the Asian guy that owned that gas station. That was his third time doing that. I got kids, you got kids, we got kids out here. What do we tell our kids? Because now it's to the point I don't even want my son going nowhere.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I don't know if you guys
What
remember.
up, Denard?
What's up? What's up? You guys got to go on mute when I'm speaking because it's gonna create an echo, and there's no disrespect. I love y'all for being here. Thank y'all so much for being here and adding value to this conversation. But the reason why I haven't spoken on the Asian situation just yet is because it's like I told you so. During the pandemic, when we was on this app and they passed the Asian hate crime bill, myself, Connie Collins, Asia, we all told y'all that these situations was gonna happen. I specifically said that if your nephew, your cousin, or whoever going to the neighborhood bodega and robbing it for a honey bun or hit Mr. Ling Ling across the head and make him feel scared for his life and he unalive your child, then guess what? He's going to be able to use the Asian hate crime to say that you did it because I'm Asian and you was picking and poking at me and I felt fear. Asian hate crime gave Asians the protectability that black people need, that black people have fought for. This is why we did away with this fucking DEI and affirmative action. Everybody gets the benefit off of black people. The Asian hate crime bill specifically gives Asians the right to violate the basic rights of black people. So as long as they can form a defense, said I was scared for my life and this black kid did this, he threatened me, he threatened my business, I'm gonna chase you out of my establishment and pow you in the back. And guess what? There's nothing can be done about it because now I'm a protected citizen according to the Asian hate crime bill. And now the Jewish people want the same hate crime bill. That's what the fuck happened, and that enrages me. And I remember, do you guys remember me doing these conversations and telling you about the Asian hate crime bill and how your kids was gonna be unalive for going to the bodegas and talking shit to Mr. Ling Ling because of how he feel? Do you guys remember that? Yes or no?
I don't remember you specifically saying that, but I do remember when that there was an incident that occurred in which triggered and sparked the fucking flame for the Asian crime bill. And I thought it was some bullshit, but everybody was not paying attention to that shit.
It was a white boy going to a nail salon in Atlanta, Georgia, and unalive them people. And then they used that and padded it with what was going on with the Somalis and Africans in New York against the Asians to grift our likeness. And they even used and highlighted a case where a white man chained a black man and drug him almost like Emmett Till as a justification to get protection for Asians in America throughout our black neighborhoods. We've had those conversations. You might not remember it, but I remember it. And I don't want to, go too far and derail from Karmelo Anthony, but it's important to give context to how these laws and this legislation that we allow to happen and that we don't fight against when we have the opportunity to. Now, years later, fucking 5 years later, look at what's happening because a white person decided to shoot up a nail tech salon. Black people got to take the licks and be harmed the most. And all these laws and rules and regulations that they pass against black people, at some point it comes back and bite white people in the ass. And suddenly when they're crying about how it affected them, we don't give a fuck because we've had to deal with it. We're desensitized to it. I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah, it's like a snowball effect. I mean, if we didn't do anything before, all this is residual collateral damage. And we got to start standing firm on some shit and stop ignoring these things that's happening because it's gonna when it hit home, then that's when it hurt. Then that's when everybody cared. And then it's all of a sudden some outrage. I'm tired of the outrage. We should have been on top of shit. Big facts.
Absolutely. Like the
I'm
video.
being
Go ahead. I'm gonna say
stern. Just 1 second. We have to be stern with our children. I'm a big disciplinarian, but not with violence. I never gave my kids a beating because I don't believe that if your kids do something wrong or they don't listen or they, whatever they might have did, you beat them physically with a whoop or a belt because you're teaching them when you do something wrong or somebody pisses you off, then you can violently attack them. So I don't know if this is what that kid went through, being taught, getting his ass whipped growing up, because his mom probably taught him you can get your ass whipped if you don't listen, if you're angry, or you do something I don't want you to do. No, these are rules that they will take on when they get older. They would think that that is acceptable to do to other people. And so that's why, honestly, I'm not going to blame his parents, but, you got to be careful when y'all raising these kids, or, they're going to end up like this. Crazy as hell.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I thank you guys so much for being here. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're on YouTube, remember we're coming back from a copyright strike as well as some shift in algorithm. So give it and take about another week. We're going to be way back up there doing monster numbers, and I need your help as of now. Everybody, 100% people, like this video, share it out on your community wall, share it to Reddit, share it everywhere. We're giving complete and unbiased commentary. Remind you, I'm not on the trier of fact, but as I introduce this next clip, people such as black people that could actually make a difference in this case have elected to not be on the trier of fact because for some reason we all of a sudden want to be honest at the wrong times. I'm going to play this clip and listen up to what happened today in the court. Shout out to Queen Sheba Darling. I met her at the Diddy trial. She's out there. She's boots on the ground. I trust her opinion. She very neutral. And so here's what she had to say about today. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit simply because I need you guys to hear from what happened inside of the court today.
Presenting himself. He's doing a really good job of managing his relationships.
Oh.
He just feels like a good next door guy, like an all-American guy. He's approachable. He smiles. He's not taking himself too serious.
Okay, she's talking about Karmelo Anthony.
Found ways to really implement just a light tone to this very serious case, right? And he's doing a really good job of presenting himself. He's doing a really good job of managing his relationships with the jurors. So I think I believe the prosecution has gotten off to a really fantastic start. When I looked at the state and their team, you have the main prosecutor, and it looks like there's 4 people on the team from what I could see. The prosecutor himself, which would be 2 men and 2 women. The defense is going to have their 1 hour and 45 minutes after we come back from break. And from what I could see, the defense has 3 people. 1 man, which is the primary defense, 2 men and 1 woman. I did see Karmelo Anthony today. So let me tell you a little bit about Karmelo. And when I cover cases, I know you guys aren't able to be here in the courtroom. So what I would like to do is give you my view and give you my experience so that you can feel like you are here or you were here with me. So Karmelo is wearing a navy suit today, really nice blue navy suit. His hair is a clean cut haircut, okay? I think when this occurred, he had a different look, but he's a clean cut. He has on a nice soft pink shirt with the blue tie, with the blue.
Oh, what's going on? 1 second. I think there's issues with her video.
It's after we come back from break. And from what I could see, the defense has 3 people. 1 man, which is the primary defense, 2 men and 1 woman. I did see Karmelo Anthony today. So let me tell you a little bit about Karmelo. And when I cover cases, I know you guys aren't, because we're not allowed in here right now. So we're only watching it from like a television screen in an overflow. He looks well-groomed.
And I think that's very problematic. Right now, all of the media, including mainstream media, is having to sit in an overflow room and there's only 1 camera pointed at the judge. If she's seeing Karmelo Anthony and other people, it's because she's going through these doors and seeing them. Yesterday it was reported 1 camera is only pointed at the judge and they just hear everybody else's voices. And the judge is very much aware that the camera's on him. So his job, Mr. Roach, is to come across as unbiased and not emotionally invested in this case, which is very strategic of this courthouse.
He seems very lean. I didn't see him when he stood up, but he seems to be a very lean young man. There were times he did smile when the prosecutor asked juror number 5, did you break the speed limit today? So I did catch him smiling. But let's get into it. So when I tell you, juror number 142 stated that he would not feel comfortable putting a brother in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Those were his exact words. He's saying, listen, there was a lot going on.
And this is the problem I have and why I actually had to crank this video up. If you black and you don't feel comfortable putting a brother in jail, then it's important for you to be on that trial, because whether he's actually innocent, guilty, committed a crime or not, we see so many brothers being put in prison and then turn out they're innocent because there's no black people who understand black culture, who understand how they process things as a kid And there's white people just looking and have already been trained that black people are a threat to them. This is Collin County, where the average household income is $120,000 a year minimum in Collin County. So these are rich, affluent white people who have money to spend, who don't surround themselves around black people. And I like to compare that to my experience when I went to Argentina. There's absolutely no black people in Argentina. And I felt like how the white people that don't grow up around and have no interactions with black people felt. I'm like, I don't know these people. I hope and pray I don't get into an emergency situation. I wouldn't trust to go to their hospitals because there's nobody that look like me around here, that understands me, that grew up the same way as me, that think like me, that feels like me. And then they're fucking racist. So I finally got to feel what the average white person in America feels that don't have a history of surrounding themselves with black people. Are they racist? Maybe. But at the same time, how can I be comfortable around something that I'm not familiar with? So, because this brother don't feel comfortable putting another brother in jail for the rest of his life, you're the only person that can actually familiarize yourself with this individual. And this brother gave the gave the prosecutors an opportunity to grill him and ask him specific questions and piggyback off of that, basically to pad the record so that if the defense ever go in and say that there was a situation during jury selection and they're racist, the prosecutor can then point to the record to where this brother said this and how they was fair towards him as a potential juror, and they're going to use that in the record to justify why even if some black people be cut down to like let's say it's the final 50 people and then they got 6 or 7 black people. The prosecutor in their head is like, okay, well, we already have it in record where we address somebody black and told them how, we're not racist and how sensitive we are to their concern and how, we question them to act like we cared about black people being on the jury. We already have that in the record. So let's just use our strikes to get rid of them just because they're black, to get an all-white juror. Like, that's how this shit go. This is systemic racism at play. And we are too honest at times when we just need to play the fucking game. It's called the white lie for a reason. But here she go, talking about a brother who eliminated himself to basically help the system put this black man in, do what he don't want to do, which is put this black man in prison for the rest of his life.
Today with these jurors. But juror number 42, he kept it real, and he says, I don't think this is the proper case for me when we talk about fairness. What you're looking for is a fair jury pool. I don't feel comfortable putting a brother in jail. And this led to the prosecutor stating, listen, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about race. Nobody wants to be on this case, right? And race could affect or determine guilt versus innocence. And the prosecutor also stated that in his 31 years of being in law and prosecuting cases, this is his first time ever having this type of conversation with jurors, okay? And he said he's never had this talk before. And he says that
see what I'm saying? Patting the record. Oh, I never had this. This is new to me. Oh my gosh. And I feel your pain. We're not racist. Just to use that to get rid of the rest of the black people that's going to be prospective jurors. That's it. That's all it is. That's why no cameras are in the room to clock this shit.
Probably the time to do it in America, to have, this type of conversation, because they need to know how the jurors are feeling about this. Could race play a part in this case? And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to remind you of some statistics. If this is your first time here with me, welcome. But when day one of the trial, I gave you the rundown. Collin County is predominantly 62% white.
Wow.
And the brother, juror number 142, said out loud, I don't feel comfortable locking Karmelo up.
With
right?
his dumb ass.
But then you had other white jurors that followed in his footsteps. Juror number 24, which was a white woman. She says, I can't do it. He's a kid. I'm looking at him. This is a child. This is what she said. She said, he made a mistake. He made a very bad decision. She said, I don't feel comfortable charging a kid and putting him away for life. I just couldn't do it. That's what she said. That was juror number 24. Juror number 198, juror number 199, they shared the same sentiment. Now, if you remember the other day, juror number 199 is the same juror that asked the judge, what happens if we can't agree? What happens if we go into deliberations and we're not able to agree? And remember, I told you, the judge said, you're not going to do that in my court. So then 199 comes back and says, well, you know what, don't pick me. This is just not a good week for me. So the prosecutor takes over, that they're giving the jurors an opportunity
and
to
the judge told the jury, a juror asked, what happens if we don't agree? The proper answer would be, then y'all gotta come up, y'all got to debate each other and y'all got to talk about it to come up with some decision. That's up to you. And the judge said that won't happen in my court, meaning that the judge also is partaking in this coercive voting mechanism and coercing the jury that I'm not going to tolerate you guys fighting against each other. You guys got to come up with one decision, one solid decision, and that's it. So he's intimidating the jury himself, the judge.
Questions to speak to why they would or would not make a great juror, or why they should or should not be selected. And the prosecutor explained there's two phases, right? There's a guilt and innocence phase. And he said, I kind of like to explain it like a snapshot. Your job is to figure out or to determine, did the state prove that this person committed the crime? That's it in that phase, in the guilt and innocence phase. That's your only job, not the details. Did the state prove that the defendant, commit the crime? He said, then we have the punishment phase, right? That's the photo op. That's where you get the full scope of everything. Who is this person? What is their background? How were they raised? Any trauma, school? Do they have a history of violence? That's when we really get into the details of who they are, right? And in the state of Texas, the punishment phase is 5 to 99 years, but it seems like Collin County, they're asking for 20 years, okay? But there was a lot of conversation today regarding life. Can you consider issuing a life sentence, which takes us to juror number 105. Juror number 105 says, I don't know if I'll be able to sleep well at night being on this case. I have to do what would lead to me being able to have a good night's rest. And I can't promise you that I would be able to make a decision where I can lay my head down and feel good about what I've done, okay? So then she says, can you tell me or give me the definition of beyond a reasonable doubt? The prosecutor says, we don't do that. We cannot tell you that. The state cannot define that for you as a juror.
What do you mean? The state cannot define, that's your job. There's a legal definition for beyond a reasonable doubt. So as the state can't tell them, but the state can refer to them to the jury instruction where it defines it. And usually when we see court cases, the ones that are televised, in the opening statement, they say, I'm pretty sure you heard about evidence and this is what reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt means. And we can't do that. What do you mean? This courthouse is incompetent. The judge is not supposed to tell the jury that we don't do that here if you guys can't agree on a decision. You're supposed to instruct them that y'all supposed to go back there and talk like civilized individuals and come up with a decision, no matter how long it take. Y'all got to come up with one sound, one band decision. And then the prosecutor saying you can't define beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, what the fuck do you mean? This is incompetent.
You have the freedom. As a critical thinker, you have to be able to determine that yourself. By law, we cannot give you the definition of that. So then juror number 142, let's see.
There's a legal definition for beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's in every state law. It's inside the jury instructions. Like, did the defense and did the prosecutor not propose prospective jury instructions to agree on the definition of beyond a reasonable doubt? Like, what do you mean? So they're basically instructing the jury to do whatever they want to do. Just come up with something. I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't want to hear nothing but guilty or not guilty. That's incompetent.
Okay, so juror number 142, this was no, not 142. I think it was juror number 41 that says, well, let's talk about race since we're talking about race. And this was a white woman. She says you have to admit that race does play a critical role in the severity of the punishment. So even if we try to take race off the table, it's still on the table. And I think what she was insinuating, she's saying, listen, we're all savvy enough to know that different races receive different punishment based on the color of their skin. And these are, like I said, these are the constituents of this community in Collin County. Again, 62% white. And I think when I say, I'm talking about the entire community, right? So we had over 600 potential jurors to show up. They were able to eliminate 100 the other day. They're down to 500. So what the judge wants to do is trim it down to half.
My mic is messing up.
He talks about moral decisions. And he said, can you promise me that you be able to make a decision, the correct decision, from a moral standpoint? He said, I understand you don't want to be on the case, but if you had to go in there and make a decision morally, could you do that? And 41 says, this is not the right case for me. I can't do that for you. Okay. So 237 is a white woman who's a teacher here in Collin County. She said, listen, I'm an educator. And I believe that
they definitely gonna pick an educator, because when they bring in them school records, that educator is gonna be able to understand it and dissect it and get a better scope of who he is. Trust and believe. They definitely gonna bring some principals, some teachers. That jury that she just mentioned, I guarantee you, she make it down to the last of the last, if not actually chosen to sit on the jury.
to be able to separate the behavior from the person. You know, I think she was saying the behavior from the race, but that's what she said. That's what I wrote down. My notes could be wrong, but I think I'm pretty accurate. And then number 34 told, number 34, who's a woman, she said, listen, I have sons. I have always told my sons to defend themselves. So I don't think I'm the right person for this. She says, I have 2 sons. I've raised them well, but you best believe, I always tell them, you have to defend yourself.
And I bet you she spent money on karate classes, boxing classes, and all that other shit for them to learn how to and know how to defend themselves. See, that's the difference. Black folks, we don't put our kids in those classes. We can't afford it, and it's not important, or they'll wait till they get grown. They'll be able to pay it for themselves, right? We won't even get our kids braces in their motherfucking mouth until they get grown and able to do it for themselves, right? It's negligent.
And she said, now, I don't want them using knives or guns. And the courtroom erupted in laughter.
Right.
But she said, I have always had that talk with my sons. You must defend yourself if you're ever in a safer position.
And she spent that
then the
money on
prosecutor transitions to
self-defense
self-defense.
classes.
What constitutes self-defense in the state of Texas? This is very interesting. What he did share is that self-defense. Let me get my other note. I want to make sure I'm on track. Oh. Give me 1 second. I think I may have left it in the courtroom. He's saying you have no other choice but to use deadly force. That's what the state of Texas constitutes as self-defense. Self-defense means I had no other choice. This was the only option. Okay? And he says, words alone do not warrant self-defense. You cannot provoke a person and then use deadly force and say, hey, I was defending myself. He said that does not constitute as self-defense.
And this is the biggest difference between Chud the Builder and Karmelo Anthony.
You cannot provoke and then take a life. You can't say, hey, come over here, your mom is this and that. And so basically what he's saying is, I believe that Karmelo Anthony's self-defense stance is flawed, because I'm guessing you're going to get into the details of the case a little bit later, that they're going to poke holes in that theory. He says, in order to justify the legality of self-defense, you cannot be a provoker. You cannot be a provoker at all.
Yeah.
So I believe the state is asking. I have my notes here.
And mind you, with Karmelo Anthony opening his backpack and telling Austin Metcalf, touch me and see what happens, that's an element of provoking.
For 20 years. In the state of Texas, they do receive a wide range of the ask, which is 5 to 99. They can ask anywhere between 5 to 99. And when I tell you, there were a lot of jurors that straight up, they said, I can't consider life. A white woman. Juror number 32 said, I cannot consider life. Juror number 42 says, listen, this is a kid. He looks like a kid. He says he needs an opportunity to learn. I can't send him to prison for life. There was a lot of that today. Juror number 42, I'm sorry, juror number 32 was a white male. Juror number 42 is a white woman that says, I want him to learn, but I don't think sending him to prison for the rest of his life will give him the opportunity. That is a kid. Then we have another juror, and he says, how old is he? That's exactly what he says to the prosecutor. He says, excuse me, how old is he? And the prosecutor says, sir, I can't tell you that. He said, well, he looks like a kid to me. I'm not the right person for this case. Juror number 92. Juror number 123 says, I will not deliberate. Don't pick me. If I go back there, I refuse to participate. Juror number 232, juror number 169 says they cannot issue punishment. Even if they were selected, they don't feel good sending him to prison, okay? And then we had a teacher, number 100. She says, I don't think people understand, what is it, proportionality? She said, it's gonna be so important for you to get critical thinkers in that deliberation room.
Juror number 100, that teacher that's talking about critical thinking, I guarantee you she's gonna sit on the jury.
Can't just be putting people back there. This is bigger than just white and black.
Yeah,
she didn't say that, but I'm paraphrasing.
She said for them.
Proportionality is so important. She says, this is a kid. We have so many things to consider. We have to consider background. We have to consider trauma. We have to consider, are kids even able to be reasonable, right? And think like adults. She says, I can consider both ends, but you need other people in the room that can also do the same. She says, so they go, well, if we were to select you, are you saying you could be fair? She's saying, yes, I could be fair, but I don't think everybody else could be.
Kima Music, I see you in my broader chat, but I don't see you in the actual chat. Do you guys see Kamaya Music? I don't have you blocked. Do you have me blocked? Let me know. If not, I'm taking all moderation wrenches, because I told y'all bitches don't be blocking people in my motherfucking chat. And that's what's happening here. And all them wrenches finna go. Can y'all see Kima Music in the chat? Because I see her in my broader chat, but not the actual YouTube chat, which means that somebody has her blocked or she has me blocked.
I don't know his words, but paraphrasing, right? Juror number 129, who was also a white woman, says, I would have a hard time giving Karmelo Anthony 5 years. She said it would be hard for me to even give him 5 years. Juror number 256 says, well, I could punish him, but I would probably lean to the lower side of the punishment. And the prosecutor says, does that mean you can't consider life? Or is it off the table? Juror number 256 responded, he's a kid. Life is off the table for me. Y'all, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? I thought I had it figured out. I thought I'm bad. I'm not. What are your thoughts? So we're almost done. Juror number 350 says, who was a white male, he said, and I think he was just trying to get out of jury duty. He says, I'm not considering any range of punishment, period. Juror 350 also asked the state, can you clarify life? And the state says, in this situation, we're talking life with the possibility of parole. Juror number 319 says he cannot, or they could not consider life. That's reserved for hardened criminals. He doesn't believe Karmelo Anthony is a hardened criminal. Juror number 296, this is the final one, says, what if it was in the heat of the moment? What if a crime is committed in the heat of the moment? To which the prosecutor responded, well, in the state of Texas, in order for it to be considered the heat of the moment, that means that person would have had absolutely no time to cool off, right? And then he used an example of a case that he said that recently has been tried in the state of Texas, where a father walked into a bar and witnessed his ranch hand molesting his daughter, and he killed the ranch hand in the heat of the moment. He said that's an example of the heat of the moment. That's an example of when punishment goes from 20 years to 2 years, okay? So that's all I have right now. This is the first half of the morning. I'm going to come back and let you know how jury selections continue as the defense team takes the floor with their 1 hour and 45 minutes. Got it?
And shout out to Queen Sheba. Greatly appreciate her actually boots on the ground being there. Again, I met her during the Diddy trial. She does like to be specific and direct about everything that she do. Yeah, all moderation wrenches are gonna be removed because I can't see her at all. She doesn't have me blocked. It means that somebody with a moderation wrench has her blocked, and I don't incorporate your beef. I don't care about your beef with nobody else. That pertains to everybody, because I'm moving away from beefing with people or paying attention to the drama, and whatever you got going out there on the YouTube streets is not my business. So everybody's coming off of those moderation wrenches, and I will slowly but surely give them back to my trusted moderators, because I don't incorporate your beefs, and I don't give a fuck about your beefs. I give a fuck about the growth and development of my platform, which is more important than your interpersonal relationship with me. So Dominic, do you have any questions, any concerns, or any statements? And Gigi, this is a question for you about what you just heard when it comes to the jury selection and the prospective juries and what they're saying in court.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So it sounds as though to me people do understand that this is a child who is actually being charged, as an adult. It seems as though they're having difficulty with selecting with the jury selection, because people feel they're they have what's what I'm looking for. They have somewhat of a heart, right? So they have a conscience. That's the word. They have a conscience. They understand this is a kid. No one wants to put a kid behind bars for up to life, in prison. No one wants to do that. That is terrible. You're looking at that stand, you see that particular child there, you're looking at like, okay, this is a kid. Now, as far as the teacher is concerned, from my understanding, you are absolutely 100% correct. They most likely will probably have that teacher up there, because the teacher can definitely speak regarding the character, those documents showing that, he has a history of bullying or, antagonizing other children and so forth and so on. So I'm just interested in seeing who will be on the jury trial. It seems like they're having a difficult time with selecting a jury based off of the notion that, people understand this is a kid, and no one wants to put a kid behind bars for the rest of their life, understanding that it was self-defense. I especially enjoyed hearing the commentary about the juror who said that they have a son. They have sons, and they teach their sons to defend themselves at all costs, and don't let anyone treat you less than what you are. I especially enjoyed hearing that, because those people who do have sons, right, or children in general, they are actually able to acquiesce to the Carmelo Anthony family that this is a kid. This is the kid. I pray justice for I pray for him and I pray for his family, and I just hope that there's a good turnout from all of this as far as his freedom is concerned.
I absolutely agree with that, and thank you for that. That is definitely the sympathy card, and I'm glad that you pointed out that you and I both feel like the teacher educators who deal with students like Carmelo every single day are important to be on the trial of fact. But then also in opposition to that, even though he's getting the sympathy card from them on his face, what happens when the prosecutor bring in that school record? And it does not read well. Those teachers are then going to be thinking about how they have other students that look like him, other black students in the class that can't get right, that they have hope for, or prior students that they believed in that was just as bad as Carmelo and turned out to be good or turned out to be bad. So I think those teachers being on the trial of fact, those educators, those people who deal with students all the time, like they are very important to this case regardless. And I think the conflict with both white people and black people in this trial is that they cannot live with the fact that he's probably going to get sentenced to 99 years or life in prison. That's out of their decision. That's a judge's decision on how much time he's going to receive. Even if the defense and the state come together and say, oh, we only want to give him 20 years. The judge can be like, fuck that. The law says that I can sentence him to 99 years or life in prison, and that's what I'm going to do. That's where the law and the trier of fact kind of conflict. The trier of fact is not going to be at the sentencing here. They have nothing to do with that. They only have something to do with whether he's innocent and guilty. And from what it sounds like, the trier of fact has already made up their mind. Even these people who's coming across unbiased, they're saying, I can't see him to life. I can't do any of this, yada, yada, yada. That indicates to me that they already have their mind made up that he's guilty. And their only reasonable conscience is about how much or how little time that he's going to get as a result of this actual crime. That's what I'm getting from this. But I'm going to go on mute and see what you guys have to say. Welcome to the stage, Star GG.
I want to add one more piece real quick. I don't like what's going on in the courtroom as far as the judge is concerned. Those questions that are being asked in regards to what is considered reasonable doubt, as well as a few other questions by jurors, they're asking those questions because they're typically confused. You know what I'm saying? They want to know whether or not the charge that Carmelo Anthony, what he's being charged with, stands is solid as far as reasonable doubt is concerned, as far as murder is concerned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when the judge is saying that, they're not going to go over those details and answer those questions, and it's not going to happen in the courtroom or their chambers, et cetera, it shows that you pretty much may already have your mind made up and you're ready to throw the book at him or sentence him and whatnot and so forth and so on. At this juncture, with all of that being said and heard, I think it would be within our best interest, and definitely it's totally within my best interest to keep him and his family in deep thought and prayer.
I mean, yeah.
I will add on to that. I do think the jury made sense because she's a woman, and so when you have children and things, you have to take that in consideration as well. This is still a child that made bad decisions off of impulses and emotions. This is something that can definitely be healed. He can, they have programs that can help children to deal and cope with just making reasonable decisions at the time. Do I think that he should be in there for life, forever, forever? No. But do I think he should be able to get life with parole? And even if they charge him as an adult, he might need to sit down for a little bit. But I do think that he should have a second chance to think about what he did, because once you say it, you don't got no choice but to think. And I do think that there is a hope for someone's son to maybe make better and different decisions. So when I did trial jury, I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and it was kind of very similar. It was an adult, a Puerto Rican woman that stab someone. And I'm sorry, I went against her, not guilty. And she didn't, because there was no proof. And this is a different situation because there was proof. But I'm still, I don't feel comfortable sending a child to jail for life over a split of a moment, bad decision, especially after everything that they were going through. So I do take that in consideration.
Absolutely. But even with you, as somebody who's not on the trial of fact, someone who empathizes with black youth, black men, I think the general consensus with all of this, even though we're not the jury, we're not the judge, we don't know the personal facts beyond the scope of what's being perpetuated in the media. And based upon the information we've received, not saying that Karmelo Anthony has exposed his entire defense. He could have been trampled by Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf, and they're just playing the victim, kind of like what Charleston White spoke about. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. His defense has not been laid out fully. There was a gag order on the family. So this is what I'm emotionally, mentally, and cognitively compelled to hear. I want his defense to be strong. And right now, if all the facts are published and we know all the facts as the public, I think people on the jury, people in this clubhouse room, and the general public is saying, hey, he did this shit and he deserves to be punished, but not for life, which is ultimately the judge's decision. We're going to advocate and say, hey, yeah, he needs to be found guilty, but maybe 20 years and only 20 years. And my whole thing is, the reason I can go with these prospective jurors and even you, Gigi, saying he did something, he made a mistake in 20 years is what he deserves. I have a brother who got sentenced to 40 years in prison and ain't even killed nobody. And he's innocent of the crime and fighting his case. And they sentenced him to 40 years. And he was 17. So I don't know Karmelo Anthony. I don't. So me, based on my personal experience and my empathy that I have for my brother and seeing my brother literally almost be locked up for 20 years still fighting his case, he can do 20 years. That's where I'm coming from. He can do motherfucking 20 years and still get out and make something of himself. By the time he get out, he'll be a little bit older than me right now in his current state. He didn't go to boot camp. He didn't go to mental health treatment. He was able to convince his mother and father that he was just innocent. He got a fucking brand new car, $100,000+ car for his 18th birthday. That's some privilege that most black kids don't have. So really and truthfully, the minorities, most black people who don't have the privileges and the access and the wealth that he has, at the end of the day, we're really not going to feel bad for him if he get 20 years. We're going to be like, okay, you deserve that. Fuck that. You stabbed that white man up and you killed him because you couldn't take a fucking fade and you decided to use lethal force. 20, okay, cool. 20 years. All right, cool. We're going to move on. And we're going to say the same thing about Chud the Builder, bitch. You deserve all the time because your self-defense theory is critically flawed as well. And this is where you get an unbiased person coming from all angles and all perspectives. I'm going to go on mute to see what Star, Gigi, or Dominique have to say before I introduce this clip of Charleston White actually talking about it and having the personal knowledge of the facts from Karmelo Anthony's father. But I'm going to go on mute to see what you guys have to say.
I do think that the judges are careful when having a little bit of diversity when they pick their joints, right? You gotta get that letter in the mail saying you got jury duty, you only want to do it, but you do it, right? I actually want to film. There was I think maybe 12 or 15 of us, and we all were very different. Okay, but we came to an agreement, but we had our own opinions. So I think that the jury. Let me turn this on. Sorry, cookie. I do think that the jury is definitely not going to be biased at all. The judges are very particular on who they pick when they choose you, and you got to go. And so I think he would have a fair trial. Absolutely. And honestly, it's really just coming into an agreement. I hope that they make good decisions. You're not supposed to make a decision off of your opinion, like your emotions, because this is not about you and how you really feel. It's really about the facts that are sitting in front of you and the details of what happened and coming to an agreement. I think it'll be a fair jury. The judges ain't going to take it.
Can I say something tonight?
Yes, what's up, Star? I'm gonna go on mute. Go ahead.
Hey, okay. So I don't think it's going to be a fair trial. For one, it's a all white juror. And that is first thing problematic. You don't know who you have up there that does not like black people, just people by the color of their skin. So that's right there is I'm not convinced. This is why I did jury services. I worked in jury services for 2 years, y'all. And when I tell y'all how many of us would do anything not to serve as a juror, and now we want to sit here today in 2026 when just in South Carolina with the guy that got shot in the back, ran down by the Asian man, he was found not guilty. And he shot somebody in the back. So I'm not convinced that this is going to be a fair trial. They're going to make an example out of him just because he is black. And they are trying him as an adult. Forget the child shit. They want to nail him to the wall. So this is not going to be a fair trial. It's going to be another one up that the white man get over the black man every fucking time.
So, Star, I have a question, right? So, shout out to Queen Sheba Darling. She's actually boots on the grounds there, and she spoke about how a black man said he don't want to sit on the jury simply because he could not send a black kid to prison for the rest of his life. Isn't that a compelling reason for him to fight for his position to sit on the trial fact, especially in Collin County?
Well, because he made that statement, it goes back to this wouldn't be a fair trial concept. Anything that you say out of your mouth that can jeopardize this case as a juror, meaning you're not going in with an open mind to hear the evidence and be fair, they're going to get you up out of there. So they do that. They ask you questions because they got to probe. The whole point is to get a fair trial that we all deserve. So no, he couldn't fight for that. The defense would have probably picked them, but the prosecution, if they can't agree on the jurors together, then they're just going to be dismissed.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, do you feel like he should not have disclosed that information so that he could get on the jury? And do you feel like everybody is just like everybody that's on the actual jury is honest about, you ask a white person in society or even, especially in the court of law, are you racist? Oh, of course not. And they can be downright fucking racist. And I spoke about it earlier. It's called a white life for a reason.
Right, he shouldn't have said nothing. He should have, because I truly do believe a lot of them answer in a way to be a juror when they know that they're against whatever is about to be presented in front of them. So I think that happens all the time. He should have just shut the fuck up, and he probably would have been selected.
I remember when I got the letter in the mail to be a jury. I didn't have a choice because if you don't go, there's consequences when you're being ordered to do jury duty. And, when I went, the procedures they did when I was there, first of all, it was a handful of us, and they asked every single one of us, one by one, the judge asked every single one of us to give them like an introduction of who we are and what we do. I swear that's what he did. And I was right. I said, what? I'm a mother. I have two children, and I did study criminology and criminal justice, and I'm excited to be here. And so it was up to her, the person that was alleged to do this crime. She got her lawyer. They let her pick her jury. She picked me and about 15 other people. So I don't know if it's different in this case, but back when I did it, no, you had to go. There's no not you not going. You have to go. You're ordered. You're
Gigi,
subpoenaed.
having to go
And
and
he
be
gets to pick.
two different,
Yeah.
having to go and being picked are two different things. Everybody has to go as a citizen. That is in your what they call it, the amendment. Everybody has to go, but it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be picked just because you had to go. See, that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. She got the pick amongst all of us, and so you know they get to pick their jury. I think they still can do that now. I'm not for sure because I haven't done that in years. But I think they do still have a chance and a right to be able to pick who they want as a jury after they
Yes,
hear
yes.
them.
You as a defense. That's why y'all remember with the Young Thug trial, he was able to be in front of all the jurors that was summoned because that was his right for a fair and speedy trial. Yes, you're definitely right. And the defense get to say yay or nay on them, and the defense gets to say yay or nay if they want to pick that person as a juror.
Absolutely. And again, I totally agree with Star. If you feel like you cannot send this kid to prison for the rest of his life, but your constituents is that you're going to be fair and unbiased and listen to the facts and then make up a decision. With this man saying that premeditatedly, to me, it signifies and showed that he somewhat agreed and already made his mind up that Carmelo Anthony is guilty and I just cannot send him to prison for the rest of his life. So I'm going to vote against what, regardless of the facts, regardless of anything. I still feel like he should have fought for that. Like you can get down to the bare and be like, okay, you need to go in and stand up for the self-defense right and look at the law and judge it based upon that. I felt like he just exposed too much too soon and he gave up on him too early. So he did not do the public a service at all. He did a disservice to a black kid who you could have stood up for and further elaborated and expanded the scope of the self-defense law in Texas, because this is going to create new case law, new understanding. You know, so shout out to you guys for being. Let me introduce this clip of Charleston White. He sat down with Antonio Brown and talked from the perspective of already knowing the facts of the case, knowing information about the case that the public don't know, because Charleston White spoke out against Carmelo Anthony from the jump. And mind you, Charleston White is the same one that'll stab up, that'll poke up, bear mace, and shoot anybody that play with him. Like Charleston White is pretty much like Chud the Builder when it comes to him defending himself, but it's always only against black people. You know, them crackers don't mind niggas fucking up each other. So Charleston White decided to come out and speak against Carmelo Anthony, and then he got in touch with Carmelo Anthony's father to get more personal knowledge of what happened. And this is what he said after all of that. And mind you, Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf, their whole families was barred from speaking about this publicly. And Carmelo Anthony's father decided to speak to Charleston White and tell him the facts, knowing that he could be a mouthpiece out there to speak on the material facts that he himself cannot disclose. So in a way, Charleston White is an author of this Carmelo Anthony case. So even though he said a bunch of wild shit, he has more credibility right now than anybody because he knows the full scope of what happened based upon Carmelo Anthony's statements made to his parents and then communicated to Charleston White. And mind you, Carmelo Anthony's father is an attorney, I believe.
They're gonna keep watching. So nigga, that's my formula.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think you made comments on Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony murder.
Yeah.
Why do you think the media is shaping this as self-defense? What is your thoughts?
The media need to they have to always use the divide and conquer narrative. Black and white, us against them, police against. So they always have to have something to divide people. This really isn't about black or white, homie. Man, these are kids, and neither one of those kids have the kind of hate that we think racists have in their heart to kill each other. Homie, it's about right or wrong. And no matter what people think, it's never okay to kill anybody, no matter what they're doing to you. There's always other ways to settle conflicts and issues rather than using violence. Our culture think violence is the only thing that solves issues. You can't justify taking a weapon to school when it says there's no weapon supposed to be at school. You can't justify it. No matter what's happening at school, you cannot justify, I brought this weapon to school to save the day or to protect myself. The school have things in place for you to be protected. A resource school officer, a teacher, a principal, a counselor. There's so many other barriers that you can use other than taking matters into your own hands and taking a weapon to school and somebody end up losing their life, another kid. So, yeah, nah, homie, I don't think this kid needs to spend the rest of his life in prison, but he have to go to jail for taking somebody's life. This clearly wasn't self-defense.
Oh, wow.
I know you and Steven Jackson have been going back and forth with the...
So, and that's coming from Charleston White. And this interview was published on May 4th, 2025. So I think after that, he spoke to Karmelo Anthony's father, who then painted the narrative to be like he's all the way innocent and those guys jumped him and so forth. So it created a competing narrative. But even in Charleston White's post statements, I still wasn't convinced that Karmelo Anthony would be getting off. I think what Charleston White said, being an outsider at that particular time, simply because he didn't have a connection to Karmelo Anthony's father and wasn't told a storyline that Karmelo told his father, and obviously he can manipulate his parents. He's the oldest and spoiled. I still am not convinced that the self-defense theory that Karmelo Anthony has is gonna stand up in trial. What do you guys have to say about that? And then I'm gonna actually play what Megyn Kelly said the other day. I haven't listened to it, so we're gonna take a look at that, listen to that, and then get up out of here. But do you guys have any thoughts or opinions about what Charleston White just said? Okay, I guess not. Let me pull this.
You never know what's going to happen. Like I feel like when you're talking about white privilege, and you're talking about families that has like wealth, there can be a chance he might get off with self-defense. Yeah, I think that he might be in that category that just might get off with self-defense. Um, Especially if he can prove that when he did it, his back was against the wall. And so, we don't know a lot. Honestly, I can't wait to hear more and see how this plays out. But I think that he might have a chance. It is possible.
Absolutely. I'm going to be covering this every single day, whether it's for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. I'm going to be covering this because what's really at stake here is expanding the scope of self-defense law. That's what it means if he gets off, and giving black people in America some type of protectability against crimes that white people do against them, or even a situation with Chud the Builder, giving white people more protectability when black people are emotional and triggered to, respond to what they're doing. And we already heard people say that, oh, Karmelo Anthony, he was just emotional in that moment. Well, is that a legitimate excuse for taking a life? Like, so Chud the Builder and Karmelo Anthony are like, they're on the same coin but different sides. It's the same exact situation in different states and so forth. And if we see the Supreme Court changing their mind, in 2023 they ruled against Alabama in their redistricting of the maps when it comes to political power of black people and minority communities. And 3 years later, they're making a decision completely in opposition of a decision that this same Supreme Court made prior, when they're supposed to be making laws, rules, and regulations that affect us all for the next 100, 200 years. They changed their mind in 3 years simply because they wanted to go against black people. Again, this country, which is a corporation, has a history of doing things so as long as it's to protect white supremacy and go against black people, and it don't become a problem until it start affecting them. Without further ado, let's go ahead and take a listen to what Megyn Kelly said about the self-defense argument over stabbing of Texas teen with Holloway and Merchant.
Black teenager who goes to a track meet at another school and bumps into a young white teenager named Austin Metcalf. There were something like between 9 and 12 schools on site for this big track meet. And Karmelo Anthony, for one reason or another, it's still not clear to me what the reason was, winds up under the tent where the Austin Metcalf school was hanging. And someone told him to leave. Certainly at some point, Austin said, leave. And he had a bag, and he allegedly said to Austin, make me, and grabbed the bag. And Austin did place hands on him, allegedly, in some way to remove him. And he pulled out a knife and stabbed Austin Metcalf in the heart, killing him within minutes. He didn't even live to the hospital. He died in the arms of his identical twin.
That's clearly
He was a football star. He
is
was on his way to
self-defense.
college. He had
This
his
is
entire life in front of him,
self-defense,
and it was snuffed out.
Self-defense,
Incredible.
Hey, hey.
Self-defense, kids.
Remove
I
out of
think
the
my
fucking room.
fucking
Like,
fucking American
hold on, give me 1
guy.
second.
This is self-defense, kids.
The fuck
You
out
look-
of here, okay? Like, we value your opinion, but are you interrupting? Is you cool? We don't play that over here. BT, come up. We're not silencing anybody that says that it's self-defense, but there's a way to do things. You're disruptive. Shout out to BT. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, peace and reparations. This is a new finding for me, so I'm happy you guys are waking it up because if it's a jury of your peers and your lawyer is black, why the heck are they picking 12 white folks? Because the jury has the deal, and if it's a 6-trial jury, 6 white folk, because they know better, and they don't have to do that, and they are allowed to say yay or nay on who they pick. So why the hell is it no Negroes? This is a slap in the face to justice. What type of lawyers would approve of this? Because both lawyers have to approve. So that means it has to be some foul play or something is going on, some fear tactics going on for them to even do this. Furthermore, what that lady just said was freaking despicable. And she tried to paint this boy as an innocent young man. And I'm trying to be YouTube correct here. There's some things I want to say.
Well,
But
thank you for
and
that.
you try, yeah, I'm really. That's why I'm being very careful with my words. But and my issue is when she tries to portray that young man who was unalived as if he is the golden child when Carmelo was in fact the golden child. This ruined his life. He was not the aggressor. He was not the antagonist. He was the protagonist. And he had a bright future. And he still does because he will be found no self-defense, in self-defense, not guilty. Okay? So, yeah, I'm here to listen. Thanks for the clips. And I'll be tuning in and chiming in as well. Thanks.
All right, for sure. Let me play what Megyn Kelly has to say. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, and then we're going to have a closing discussion about everything we discussed in this video. And I like you for being here because you just got here, and we can break down the facts and the circumstances that we discovered in this video to you. So let me go ahead and play this Megyn Kelly clip, and we can have a open discussion for anybody that wants to come up, anybody that have anything to say that's been listening to all the facts as presented from the public perspective.
Stupid, pointless instant. And now they are picking a jury in Texas, Phil, and it appears pretty clear from what little we've heard from the defense team for Karmelo Anthony that they are going to argue this was self-defense. Presumably because Austin Metcalf did apparently, we believe as of today, lay hands on Karmelo Anthony after Karmelo told him, make me.
Yeah, well, the defendant in this case started setting up his defense pretty much immediately because the police reports quote him as saying things like, quote, I was protecting myself. And he said, quote, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. So, yeah, he's setting up for some type of a justification or self-defense type of defense to the crime. But here's the problem for him. You can't be the person who instigates any type of a altercation, or you can't provoke this type of confrontation and then legally or properly avail yourself of self-defense. You know, you can defend yourself clearly if someone wrongfully puts their hands on you, but you're not allowed to just use more force than is necessary anyway. But I do think that going back to what I believe are the facts of this case that show that Karmelo Anthony was the person who started this whole thing, I don't think he's legally going to be able to prevail on a claim of self-defense if we have a fair jury. And of course, that's something I know we're going to talk about because because you've got people outside the courthouse now that are protesting in favor of both sides, and you've got to wonder, is this a case where you're going to have a jury that is pure and that can reach a proper decision?
Well, the particular jurisdiction where this is going to be held, Collin County, 2024 election results, interestingly, went 54% for Trump, 43% for Harris. It's 54% white. It's 0.7% black, 16% Hispanic or Latino, 18% Indian, it says. I don't know if they mean Asian or American, but it's predominantly white. And so, you're probably going to have a jury that reflects that general makeup. Not sure exactly how that will play, but certainly should play better than the OJ trial played in Los Angeles for, a jury that was predominantly minority and had a grudge against the cops. Phil mentions the thing about provoking, Ashley. The thing is, Karmelo Anthony could argue that he was provoked potentially by Austin putting hands on him. Number one, Phil's right. The force you use after somebody lays hands on you cannot be disproportionate. Deadly force cannot be used just because somebody places hands on you. Even if it's a push or a shove or like a try to pushing you out of the tent, that's not going to work. But even let's say he's going to say, I thought he had a weapon or something like that. If you provoked him into laying those hands on you, you can't win on a self-defense defense.
Right. It's going to be a very difficult case for the defense. I think we have a little bit of a hint as to what they're going to argue in some of the statements. He hasn't made a lot of statements, but the defense lawyer did make a statement that I've looked at a couple times. He said something about the state's not going to be able to disprove beyond a reasonable doubt that this was self-defense. So I think even he has recognized that this isn't what we would call.
This the lady that took Fonnie Willis through there, Ashley Merchant over in Georgia. This is who that is, by the way, the Trump attorney.
Perfect self-defense. It's a very messy self-defense, but I think he's going to put it up anyway. And honestly, I don't think he has a lot of other options other than for him to, present this to the prosecution and plead for mercy, which is what he should have done because he murdered this kid. I mean, he definitely murdered this poor child who should be graduating high school and getting ready to go off to college, should be enjoying his last summer before college. And instead his parents are mourning his loss. I mean, it is murder. And I don't think a jury is going to cut him any sympathy. The fact that he walked up to this tent where, you got to think about the situation. It's a track meet where there's lots of different tents. Everybody is there under their own school's tent. We look at it through a race lens, but these are events where you don't really go up to, your opponent and go hang out with them. Like, you don't do that. You don't go to the other
say, get out.
Right. Like, that's not racial.
Try going to a Giants game and sitting on the wrong side. This happens at every sporting event.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. It's like you're going in the locker room of your opponent and being like, hey, let's hang out. What do you expect? And so, if this guy laid hands on him, laying hands on him does not mean that this kid was in reasonable fear of an immediate bodily injury, a serious bodily injury. You can't just be scared that you're going to get pushed. You have to be scared that you're going to die or you're literally going to lose your limbs or something super, super significant. And, the law, all the different reasonable doubt laws in all the different states are always debated and they have little nuances. Do we use the word reasonable? Do we use objective? Stuff like that. Juries don't care. They don't care about that. They know what self-defense is and they know what it's not. And, they're going to apply their common sense and they're going to know that this kid did not need to be under this tent and they're going to know that he did not need to pull out a knife whether or not this guy put hands on him or not, that did not warrant him pulling out a knife. Why did he have a knife in the first place? I mean, if I was on the jury, that's what I would want to know. What did his parents teach him to bring a knife to a track meet, a high school track meet?
He went there looking for trouble.
And how could Austin Metcalf have ever anticipated that? That these kids are anticipating at most a fist fight or like some shoving, but like not a knife in the heart immediately.
A black eye, maybe.
And that's what they said. Here's what the police report says. Police officer Cortez Eduardo. I gave the suspect, meaning Karmelo Anthony, instructions to keep his hands in the air. During this time, the suspect said verbally out loud, I was protecting myself. While the suspect sat on the ground, I advised that I had the alleged suspect. The suspect then responds and says, I'm not alleged. I did it. As we were walking to the squad car, the suspect was emotional and said, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. It should also be noted that the suspect asked me, is he going to be okay? While he was in the back seat, the suspect was crying hysterically, says another police officer. And one other police officer writes that a witness told him, Austin had told Anthony he needed to move out from under the team's tent. Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, reached inside, and proceeded to tell Austin, touch me and see what happens. No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag, and Austin proceeded to touch Anthony. Then Anthony told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Anthony to tell him to move. Anthony pulled out what the witness recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran. Austin began grabbing his chest and telling everyone to get help. He was dead shortly thereafter. Thanks for watching this clip. If you're new here, subscribe. We got a whole lot more goodness where that came from. Would love to hear your feedback. You can email me too, Megan, MEGYN @megankelly.com, or just leave a comment below. But join the community by becoming
So that is what Megyn Kelly had to say with Ashley Merchant, the Donald Trump appointed attorney. And this is where race come into play because we as black people, we can't gatekeep this case. White people can't gatekeep the build the case. Everybody has the First Amendment and freedom of speech, and people want to look at Megyn Kelly, Ashley Merchant, as MAGA. And I seen Dominique was triggered by some of the things that Megyn Kelly said. Were you triggered because it's Megyn Kelly and Ashley Merchant and they're MAGA? Or were you triggered because you feel like they're pushing a narrative and an agenda? I'm going to go on mute.
I don't like them anyway, but yes, they are pushing a narrative and an agenda. She said he pulled a knife out of his bag. I don't recall that ever happening. I do recall it was a track spike, something used to hold the tent down. Secondly, the guy shouldn't have put Metcalf shouldn't have put his hands on him. He warned him. He said, "Don't touch me." He should have put his hands on him. Why would you even attempt to put your hands on him? And then next thing you know, this happens or whatever. He did not even, he did not even know that he unallowed that man, that boy. He did not know. He did what he did, and he ran. He punctured him once, and then he left. He punctured him once and left the scene, not even knowing what was going on, what was happening, or anything of the sort. Again, this is a kid, and for them to perpetuate and push a narrative as though he's a vigilante, this is something that he planned to have done. No, that's absolutely 100% ridiculous. And this is why I said, the R word does play a huge role in this particular case, even though the town is 62% other. I'm in a space I can't really say what I need to say, but 62% other. So, with that being said, and then I don't know if BT was here. I don't know if any of the people. I know the audience had grown since here. I did my due diligence, going to ping jail and everything else to get people in here into this space, because I think it's very important for them to hear that judge. And I don't think y'all will actually be able to hear the commentary that came from the lady who's boots on the ground right now. The things that the judge was saying, the things that the jurors were saying as they were going through jury selection. If you heard some of the things that the judge was responding to the jurors when they were asking questions as to what is considered a reasonable doubt, and other questions that should have been easily responded to and or even answered, because again the jury has to make their decision as to whether or not Mr. Anthony is going to be facing prison time for the remainder of his life. That judge appeared as though my decision is already made. We just need to get through due process, because that's what the law states. Sad, yet true. Separate and never equal.
I do want to know what you mean, what the judge said or did that made you think that, because I haven't seen them. Because they're not really allowed to speak on that kind of stuff.
Well, they were actually able to speak to, respond to the jurors. Those who could be potential jurors for the trial, as they were asking questions. Yes, and some of the questions the judge did not respond to, was acting very nonchalant about. We're not going to have you all.
Let me clear it up, dummy.
Okay.
Dominique, so I played a clip from Queen Sheba Darling, who I know from the Diddy trial, and she's a YouTuber. And this is why it's important for YouTubers and not just mainstream media to be a part of cases, because we actually report what's going on in the case without an agenda. Like these news stations, they have an agenda. And so the people that report for the news stations, they have to report according to that particular agenda, whether it's politically motivated, racially motivated, or whatever. But YouTubers, when we go to these cases, we actually report what is in the court. And I seen her reading from a notepad. She basically said that a prospective juror asked the judge, what do we do if we can't come up with a decision? The judge basically was like, that's not allowed in my court. When the correct answer should have been that y'all got to talk it through and y'all got to figure it out to come up with a group decision. That's the appropriate answer. And then another prospective juror, asked about what is beyond a reasonable doubt. Instead of defining it, they told them that you have to use critical thinking in order to define it. Those are inappropriate answers for things that already have legal definitions in case law supporting that they are supposed to educate them on what beyond a reasonable doubt means. It could be simple as doing a joint statement between the prosecutor and the defense on the actual definition and what it means, and adding it as a jury instruction. And the judge definitely was not supposed to say that won't be allowed in my court, because now if I'm on the jury and I'm there, I'm feeling like, damn, if I do something, it's gonna piss this judge off. This judge has my name. This judge probably has my address, can send the police out to me, can send the police out to my family. Those are things that shows that there's a prejudice going on, that shows that it's not a fair trial. That's why it was important for Queen Sheba Darling to be there and to highlight that. I don't even fully think she understood what she was saying, because if I was there, I would have been clocking that shit in real time like they did in this video.
Well, you're trained, you're clubhouse trained, so you have more information and knowledge on these.
I would like to agree with the not because
Well, hold
that
on,
is the
Gianna, I was
Hold
still
on,
speaking,
GG and
Gianna.
BT. Your background is so goddamn loud, like you're driving a tractor trailer or something. I don't know what it is, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Everybody mute for BT.
I just want to agree with the not because
GG, let him finish.
GG, it's still my turn, GG. Thank you. Hopefully my background isn't as loud.
It's better now. It's better.
Okay. Thank you. This new iPhone has voice isolation on it, so thanks. Shout out to that. But no, my thing is to the clip you just played. I'm happy I got that clarity on what Dominic was referring to. So I'm happy for that. I'm gonna investigate that in this judge is history, but I do know about that county in Texas. They good old boys. We do understand that. Now that being said, to the clip that was just played of the young lady you said is a lawyer who tore up Fannie Willis, and before her there was a man speaking, and he was alluding to them saying this is murder and how it's self-defense and he cold-blooded and all of these things. And then lady did correct him on some of that, and she was like, well, no, he did, because he said it was unprovoked. She said, no, he did push him, he did touch him, but that doesn't warrant him to murder him. And I don't like how she tried to change the language and say what, but it was murder still because he didn't deserve that. He touched him. He touched him. She said so, and her is not only a lawyer but a political pundit, and saying so to somebody being touched, knowing good and god darn well if it was the other way around, they'd be like, well, he touched him, then he deserves whatever he gets. But now only because of the color you want to try to have some kind of righteous conscience and change what it is from that to this. Well, we understand that if you touch somebody, you open the door for anything to happen to you. And ain't nobody able to say how you can respond to that. So I was very weird of her as an attorney and a political pundit to say such an ignorant statement. And I do hope you post that link in the chat because I want to go and see what they're saying in the comments to her and to herself, because I got some old choice words I want to go and put in from the National Reparations League. And I'll land there. Thank you.
Well, I will say, like, looking at the comments on the national news stations, the MAGA channels like Megyn Kelly, and even the commentary channels, there does seem to be a split and a divide. But the majority people are saying, as well as what the jury, the prospective juries are implying, that Karmelo's guilty, but we're conflicted about the amount of time that he should get, because if he spent life in prison, then what type of reform is this? Prison is supposed to be about reform, and it is not the jury's job. It's not their decision on how much time he will get if he's found guilty. Their only decision is if he's innocent or guilty. So the conflict of interest from the jury is not whether he's innocent or guilty. To me, it seems like they're all ready to go ahead and say he's guilty. He did this because they paid attention to the public information and information that's out there. I'm rooting for Karmelo to the extent to where he could actually present more information as to his defense in the court of law. Because if we're just dealing with the information that we're giving, then he's guilty. And I done went to the last high profile case, Diddy trial. You know, Diddy had all of these witnesses that were supposed to come in, and he was supposed to present a defense, and he didn't present shit. So what they're saying is true, and you can combat it, or what they're saying is the actual facts, and you just buying yourself time, is what I'm really compared to find out with this case. But I'm gonna go on mute.
Wow. Okay, thank you. And I just want to see what they said under her. So if you post that link, because it's her specifically, the jury and stuff, I'm not whatever. I'm just mad that the jury's all white, which is a disgrace to the judge. I mean, to the lawyer of Carmelo who even allowed that. He should have never allowed that. But
Well, let me
to
let me
her,
let me correct that. Let me correct that. You got to go on mute because I think it creates an echo in the chat. I'm gonna correct that, and I'm gonna also let you answer the correction, and then I'm gonna read off some of the comments under Megan Kelly's post. So this whole no black jury thing, the jury selection, the final jury should be decided today. The judge said he's willing to stay there until 10 p.m. in the state of Texas. So if it takes until all the way midnight Eastern Standard Time, then that's what it is. And they're going to come back with a locked and loaded 12 with the 4 alternatives. So we don't know if the jury is all black right now. That's why it's a question mark. But what I will say is, based upon boots on the ground content that we got, the black juror that probably would have been picked decided to stand up and say, I don't know if I can see this brother off the prison for the rest of his life. Well, if you believe that, you need to shut the fuck up and stay in the paint and listen to the facts and make a determination based upon the facts and not based upon personal feelings. I feel like he exposed himself too much. And if that's the sentiments of black people, I just feel like there's a reason it's called the white lie. You think all the white people there is going to tell the truth? On the jury instruction, are you racist? Of course I'm not. I love black people. Here's my one black friend and one of them that I invite to dinner and date. Doesn't mean you're not fucking racist. So why would you put yourself out there as a prospective black jury when you know black people only make about, I think, 9% of the population in Collin County, when white people make up 64%, Asian like 15%, and Latino and black people is only 9%. You're eliminating yourself. And I feel like with the state attorney's office focusing so much attention on him and acting like they empathize with him, and we never seen this situation and had somebody black and dealing with racism. At the end of the day, they're there to win a case, no matter how much time or anything. The state attorney's there to win a case. They use him, that black man, to bolster the record to show that they're not racist in this decision that they're going to be making. Ultimately, is not about race. It's all mind games that they're playing. Does that make sense to you? So these black people are eliminating themselves, and we continue to see that. If you feel like you can't send this brother up the road for the rest of his life, then you should fight to be on trial, to then listen to all the facts
right?
and make up your mind. So that's what I was meaning by this particular title. Well, go ahead.
Excellent summation. Thank you for that. I love the way you surmise that, and I think that. Well, I know that they do need to stop because a lot of black folk do go in these places and act like they're crazy to get out of jury duty. We can't afford that in this one. They need to go in there and put their white voice on like they do when they go to work and go in there. Hey, what's up, buddy? What's up, guys? I'm here gonna do this and we're gonna get it done, right? You know, they don't need to be real niggas in this time of moment.
Right.
They need to be what's that word when we do it so much? When they say we go code switch, they need to turn on the code switch, get their tails in there, put on their best white voice, and act like they don't like Negroes. Like, this is crazy to me that a black man said, I don't know if I can lock this boy up for the rest of his life to these white folk.
Right.
And he know he shouldn't have said that unless he was trying to get out. We need the Negroes who are gonna go in there and act like they don't like Negroes. And then they in there, the one vote, it's 11 against 1, and they the one vote that's just voting like, nope, not guilty. I don't give a dang. So I'm really happy you gave that summary. I get it now. Oh man, I'm
BT,
curious to see
you
what
know what I
happens.
can compare this to? I can compare this to slating it, what they did over in Chicago, how they slated the black candidates in Republican spots to get them in the office. Like, we got to learn how to play ball. And it's 2026. You niggas still ain't learned how to play ball in jury selection? What the
fuck? Exactly. Yes, bro.
For a second when it comes to the jury, because what I'm hearing is we need white folks to come in and say that we don't like Negroes, why to help his case. It doesn't work like that. First of all, when you get, may I finish?
That's not what was said,
May I
Deanna.
finish? May I finish? when you first get selected to do the jury, first you have to take a course. They have you in a room from 8 to 4 p.m. all day, and y'all taking nothing but surveys. And they will repeat the same question over and over and over and over again, and just to see your thought process and how you think. So they are already studying you to see if they even want to allow you to get as a truth to be a jury. It doesn't work like that. So no, they're not just randomly selected and put up there. No, you're gonna sit in a room a day or two prior for maybe 2 days and do these surveys so they can realize where your head is at to see if you're even eligible to be a
That's
jury.
after
They
being
even get
selected.
picked out. That's how that works.
So can
But
I
I hear
say
what
I've
you're
done
so?
jury
saying.
duty. That's after. That's after.
Denied. Is this considered like a high profile case?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so, and I'm just going to give y'all an example. I'm not saying it works like this everywhere, but in high profile cases that we got in Fulton County, there will be a questionnaire. It's not a survey, it will be a questionnaire, and the questionnaire will mostly be about you. And they try to figure out your thought process. They'll ask you, have you ever had a family member been arrested? They'll ask you, have you ever had a family member been killed by the law enforcement? And then
One
basically what
second.
that
Can we use
does.
words like unalived and grape and all of that other stuff just for YouTube
Okay,
purposes?
okay, unalive. Okay, got you. Well, just in any high profile case, they actually go through tooth and nail to see where your head at when before you're being selected for these high profile cases. It's not like regular jury duty where you go in and you sit from 8 to 4 and you wait for.
She received a call, so we'll wait till she come back in. But Star is very critical to this conversation because she herself deals with jury selection and over at the courthouse. So that's why I greatly appreciate her for being here. You guys on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, we'll be covering this Karmelo Anthony case in our own comfort of our home, and boots on the ground content we will utilize. Also Twitter, we got live or updates coming from the court. We got critical thinkers from Clubhouse and other places that will be here to offer information. So Star, are you available? Are you still on the call? If not, did anybody else want to speak until she's able to come back?
I just want to add one thing real quick, right quick. I just want to add one thing right quick. I just want to say that Mr. Anthony deserves the right to self-defense. And it does appear as though what he did to Mr. Metcalf was definitely self-defense. In my eyes, it's self-defense, no matter how he did it. He deserves a fair trial, not a presumption of guilt. So when you have these jurors, like you said, who are, saying, I don't feel good to put a child, behind bars or in prison for possibly the rest of their life, then we don't need you because you're already presuming that he's guilty without even hearing the evidence, the testimony, or anything of the sort. People are people people have due process here in America as far as trial is concerned. Like I said, personally, I think it was self-defense what he did, and I hope that his attorney is actually able to prove that it was self-defense. I hope that I pray his lawyer, helps him be able to prove that he is not guilty. If the jury does reasonably believe that he was in imminent danger, which from what I saw and what I heard, it seemed and appeared as though he was in imminent danger of injury or even bodily harm, which is why he resorted to the actions that he chose to resort to. And I hope all evidence proves to that in that case. I yield.
Thank you so much for that, Dominique. Star, are you back? Because you was explaining the jury selection process, and after that, I'm gonna read a couple of these comments from Megan Kelly's video.
Oh, my bad. I didn't know I went out. No, I was just saying in these high You profile didn't know you've cases. been out this whole time? No, I'm driving and I thought y'all were connected to my car and they got disconnected.
No, we didn't hear shit you said.
Girl, we ain't heard nothing since you said Fulton County jury selection and the name of survey is sedition. Then it went out.
No, I was just saying in these high profile cases, it's not like regular jury duty. Like they actually go tooth and nail with who, like they gonna fine tooth combs. They're gonna read. The questionnaires are basically about you, and they want to see how you feel about the legal system. And if you have any type of pushback regarding the legal system, then you will not be selected as that juror. It's just not like a regular jury trial because they want to make sure who's ever up here, they're going to be fair. But of course, I do believe like if the black man would have shut the fuck up and just answered the questionnaire right, not, he probably could have been a potential juror.
Yeah, I mean, and it's no secret. Like, systemic racism is a real thing. Like, I personally did not go through police brutality and shit until systemic racism hit me, and they would keep coming after you, coming after you. They would throw you in jail on fake charges and leave you there and try to force you to waive your right to a speedy trial to keep you in there for as long as possible. I've been through it. Systemic racism is the worst. The police ain't nothing but foot soldiers to perpetuate systemic racism. That's what people don't really understand. And at this point in time, we all know about systemic racism. Every black person in America knows that the judiciary is fucked up. So why not fight for your right and your opportunity to fucking be on the trial of fact to make a difference? Like, the CDC called me 2-3 days ago. They called me and it was talking about some survey dealing with vaccination. I was excited to talk about it because I'm like, I'm clean, I'm vaccinated, everything is good with me, and I'm in this demographic. Let me add to the CDC stats and statistics to show that not all black people are the same and to lower the stats that are built against us. Like, I even did an anthropology test one time at UCLA. I was excited to do it about how they gave me a blicky and telling me how do I feel about it, and they were studying my face to see if it made me angrier or anything. No, I go hunting with this. So what would you do with this? I go hunting, I would shoot cans, I have a lot of fun with this. I would practice my shot. Why would you practice your shot to unalive somebody? No, I would do it in case I needed to defend myself. I needed them to add to the data that not all black people think and feel the same, even though we know the game that's being played against us. So he should have shut the fuck up. Every black person shut the fuck up and do what the fuck you need to do to get on the trial of fact and wonder why the system is in control by white people and why they're always the majority and it works in their favor simply because we don't have no representation. Representation starts with you. And this man eliminated himself, and I got a problem with that. But go off. Anyways, BT, you asked for comments underneath Megyn Kelly's post. I'm gonna read a couple of them to you. Trigger warning. Someone says if it were the other way around, every major city in the country would burn to the ground. Some things never change, and it's so predictable with 341 likes. This is clearly an unalivement, not even close to self-defense with 332 likes. The fact that Karmelo Anthony has any, in all caps, supporters is baffling and is terrifying with 341 likes. He absolutely went there looking for trouble, which is 211 likes. He should have been in jail, 95 likes. Karmelo instigated it, 102 likes. Look how angry Karmelo looks coming out of court, 54 likes. Nope, too many witnesses prove otherwise. He'll rot in prison, 43 likes. You don't unalive someone for just touching you, no defense, 74 likes. If Karmelo was scared, why didn't he just leave the tent? Question mark, 114 likes. The amount of blacks supporting this unaliver and calling it self-defense with zero evidence should be eye-opener to everyone with 258 likes. He should get life, 49 likes. One, Karmelo has been suspended from his school the week before this for having that knife. Two, was approached by other students first before Austin accusing him of trying to steal their bags. He was asked by them to leave and did it, so Austin asked him to leave. His school track team was there and he wasn't allowed to sit with them because he was suspended, 17 likes. Oh my goodness. Phil Holloway said it plainly. He went there looking for trouble, 34 likes. And all of these comments, no matter where you go, is against him. I don't know if it's the Russian bots or who the fuck ever. He was trespassing. He was not supposed to be there. He was going there through other people's belonging. I hate how these facts constantly get glossed over. 71 likes. So again, these people that are commenting, and the list goes on and on. Megan Kelly has 1,363 comments so far, and just about all of them, especially the ones that I read, are 100% against Carmelo Anthony. Does that answer your question, BT?
It did, and it's really disheartening. Only one of them was pro. We're not. This is what we're up against. Thank you.
I mean, but here's the thing: this is what we are up against, or is this what he's up against? And in retrospectively, think about Chud the Builder case. Is that what he's up against, or is that what white people are up against? Like, so some way, somehow, even though race has a big part in this, we have to find the silver lining to take race out of it and look at it to be an anecdotal situation that it is. My whole thing is, I just found out he was suspended and wasn't even supposed to be there. I just found out that. I mean, is this why the prosecutor subpoenaed his?
We don't know if it's true. We don't know if that's true. They might just be saying that.
Well, guess what? The prosecutor subpoenaed his school record, and we will find out for a fact if it's true or not. But probably by Friday. I'm here to say we will find out for a fact if it's true or not. But then on top of that, the bigger issue is that, like, we as black people, we teach our kids to be afraid of the police instead of teaching our kids rules and regulations to learn how to coexist with the police. Because guess what? Whether you dead or gone, the police force still gonna be here. They still gonna be pieces of shit. You understand what I'm saying? It's taking, if you cannot beat them, join them to another level when you know their rules just as good as them. So why lead with fear? You understand what I'm saying? So in this situation, I would compare that to one of the juries earlier. We heard Queen Sheba Darling read out that one of the juries said, I taught my kids to defend themselves at all time. A white woman said that. She just didn't talk about it. I'm pretty sure she sent her kids and spent money on karate classes, boxing classes, and other ways to defend yourself with your motherfucking hands to where you don't have to pull out a knife. And how pussy can you get? They say Carmelo stabbed this boy in the heart and ran.
Yeah, I was just reading the witness statements that had come out previously, and it says that they had reported to police that they were sitting with Metcalf under the school's tent in the bleachers when someone they didn't know, identified it as Anthony, came over to them. The witness said Metcalf told Anthony to leave the tent when Anthony grabbed his bag and opened it, reached inside, and said, "Touch me and see what happens." The police document said that no one thought Anthony had a weapon. One witness said Metcalf touched Anthony, and another said Metcalf grabbed Anthony, and then Anthony pulled out a knife and stabbed. So in this situation, I mean, I'm just thinking about how see what happens. Try me. You know what I'm saying? Can you claim self-defense if you are antagonizing someone to touch you?
Premeditated, basically.
Right.
I don't think that constitutes as premeditated. It doesn't meet the
Hold on. Let's break that down. What are you saying does not constitute as premeditated? Because let's be clear here, and let's take race out of it.
Can I clarify? I don't think it's premeditated as far as premeditated murder, but I'm saying, I personally think that if you're saying touch me and see what happens, you're obviously anticipating an altercation. I don't think it's necessarily premeditated murder, though.
I didn't say premeditated murder. The situation was premeditated.
I agree with you.
Now, y'all can take that and do whatever. I never used the word unalive. I just said the situation was premeditated. If he was suspended, he was not supposed to be there. He went there, went under the tent, sat down, used the words, touch me, I dare you, and then the incident happens. All of that is premeditated because it could have been avoided.
So I have a question then. I have a question. Were you done with your submission, Star?
Go ahead, baby.
I appreciate you. So I remember early on when this case became, public. I remember early on, people were saying that there was an altercation a day or days preceding this incident. Is there any truth to that? Because what you're saying is that for someone to have uh, an intent to go to a place and you know, cause, some kind of fight or, whatever situation, what would be the motive behind him doing that? That would lend to me, logically, to say that there was something that happened prior to that made this individual do that, right? Otherwise, you're saying that this person just wanted to go and start trouble with anybody. Or was it this person specifically? Like, that's the part where, like, what's the motive behind the premeditation? Maybe I'm missing that point.
Okay, so let's look at it like this, right? Let's just say a situation did happen. Something happened to bring them to this point, right? So a few weeks and then you come back up to the date that this incident happened. Was anybody notified? Did he tell his parents? Did he tell the teachers? Like, was anybody notified that could have intervened to actually do something about this? Or did he sit at home and figure out how to get his lick back and chose that day to go to that track meet to do whatever he did, provoke the situation that ended up turning bad? I'm not saying in his mind that he wanted to unalive someone, but that was the end result to his premeditation of whatever it was that he was doing in that moment when he chose to go somewhere if he was not supposed to be there. So there's a lot of things that are being said that he was suspended. He wasn't supposed to be there. He went under their tent. And if those facts are true, then why would he pick this particular day to go with the weapon to sit up under their tent and then this be the end result?
No, I think that's a fair question. I'll say this. I think people forget what it's like. Like, people are so removed from their teenhood that they can't relate, which is weird to me. But here's the thing. Let's go with the hypothetical that this individual had an altercation, was jumped, because that was the narrative at one point. Let's go with that hypothetical because there's a lot of conjecture here. So let's go with the hypothetical that this individual was jumped by this particular person, and then he didn't tell his parents because that's just not really what most teens do. And he did keep it to himself because he's in Frisco, Texas. I lived in Dallas, which is a neighboring city of Frisco, for 15 years. I'm very familiar with Frisco and how racist it can be there. Okay, so let's just say he didn't share anything about his experience and figured that he would figure it out on his own. Took a weapon to say, if they try to touch me today, I'm going to be prepared. Is that the right course of action? Of course not. However, this is a teen. So let's just say that that were the case. Are you suggesting that the premeditation comes with the notion of killing someone? Or like, it's a premeditation that's getting me.
So Stephanie, peep this, right? So let's say, because see, I don't want to hypothetically speak, but I'll stay there with you for a second. Let's just say what you said was true. And he said that if they come jump me today, that I will protect myself, that he would have never went under their tent. He would have never even said, and he would have waited as being the victim of allegedly being jumped. He would have waited. If it was for protecting himself in case they were going to do something to him, he would have never went over there to where they were. And that's where the problem lies. He went to them. They didn't come to him.
And we have to be honest, there's nothing in the reports that indicate that there was another person involved in the altercation. I think that was a narrative at one point, but as far as like the police reports and everything go, unfortunately, that's not in there. What they do indicate is that Metcalf had told Anthony, he was in the wrong place, or what have you. It sounds like it was like well, I'm not moving or whatever. And it seems to me like, he then proceeded to like, push him after maybe he stated those words or what have you.
Miss, quick thing, right though, Miss. If I just got jumped, I don't want to even be under that tent. I will. If y'all are not going to tell me that there, and this is what the prosecution probably would try to use. Y'all not going to tell me that there wasn't another tent that he could have went under. I see somebody who jumped me 2 weeks prior, and I'm still by myself. I'm not going under that tent. I'm just not.
But that's a choice that you're saying that you would make today, understanding the circumstances. I don't know if it was just a drizzle rain, if it was one of those torrential rain, a monsoon type of rains. I don't know if that was the closest tent to him. Like, there's a lot of unknowns here. Was he in the tent for an extended period of time? Did he just run in there to get cover from the rain? Like, there's a lot of unknowns here. But to suggest that and maybe I'll ask this question to a male, you know, this notion that, oh, I was jumped by this guy before, so I'm not going to go anywhere near him. Is that the stance that a young man would take?
Well, I wanted my initial question to be answered that I asked is if you say to someone, touch me and see what happens, and then they touch you and you kill them, can you still use a self defense as a defense?
You didn't make that person touch you.
No, hold on. No.
Now, is
No,
there
no,
some
no. Hold on,
antagonizing going there? Yeah.
One second. No. And this is where we must draw the line and understand the difference, probably even the similarities, depending on the facts that come out between Chuck the Builder and Carmelo Anthony. In no state can you antagonize somebody to do something to you and then you take lethal force. The only time and the only way that you can do that, according to what I know, and it's not the law, it's the hood. Like if a motherfucker gonna come to my house and I be like, I wish you would, bitch, I'm gonna unalive you. And you come to my house and you get unalive, you don't enter my property. You can't be in a public space and test people the same way and think that the law is gonna apply to you. So if Carmelo Anthony and Chud the Builder are in the same situation, both of them need to go down from my perspective. You cannot be the victim and the villain at the same time. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, and Alexa put that in the chat as well. You cannot instigate or escalate a confrontation and then claim self-defense if it escalates. That was just what my question was. Yeah.
And Miss, that is what the police told me when I was going about my incident. When he heard me on the recording, it wasn't even. He was just like, so what am I supposed to do with this? You cannot antagonize a situation and then be the victim. You just cannot.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying, why would he even want to go under a tent with people that don't like them? It sounds like some clubhouse shit. Y'all go in spaces that people don't like y'all, and they say, but like for real though, why would he go in a space where he's not liked, and then with a weapon and a backpack and sit down and say I'm not leaving? Cause see, premeditation is what I mean. What they give you like a split second for it to be considered self-defense over premeditation. If you got enough time to rethink and do anything else, it's gonna just go bad in your favor. And Carmelo could have left that whole situation. Fuck that. He should have never went over there.
Yeah, you sound like a white person.
He shouldn't have.
This is absurd. And to even say that, no,
BT, in the eye of the law.
Excruciating is what you said was. I waited, sister.
Go ahead.
My issue star is that when you say these things, and me being from a black city, our rivals, when we were in school, we always went on the rival side. Didn't nobody care about none of that.
Period.
So when we talking about you shouldn't have won, this is a high school rivalry sports team. We always messed with and antagonized each other. That's literally what happens. And so to say he shouldn't have went over there to a public place as if it was a private school or it was a private thing and it was an area they had roped off just because they had
Wait, so
kids
that's
there.
not even his. They didn't go to the same school.
They did go to the same school.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not understanding the
No,
rivals
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
They
No,
wait. They did not go
no,
to the
they
They
same
didn't.
did?
school.
They did not.
Okay, they
That's not
didn't?
true.
Okay,
If
okay.
they didn't go to the same school, then his ass, you cannot be in another team's tent. Like, I don't know how many of
So
y'all ran
I,
And
track.
wait,
it
wait, wait.
wasn't
Like,
a
BT, hold
team.
on. I want to put it in perspective. Miss is actually a track star. And this happened at a track meet. So she can actually speak to that. And then on top of it, from what I'm seeing, it has not been disclosed in a court of law yet, but publicly they're saying that Karmelo was actually suspended from school. And when you're suspended from school, you're not even supposed to be at any school events. Whether you're there to support or not. I go back to my high school. When I was suspended, I couldn't go to the football. I couldn't do a motherfucking thing. You're suspended. You're not even
Now
supposed
that
to
is a
be
better
on that
argument.
campus.
No, I didn't
well,
know that. I need verification on that because I've just
my
heard a lot of
initial question,
racist saying that.
though, really the deeper layer is kind of like, is it really worth it? Because I feel like we have these situations, just like you outlined, BT, where people go into situations, people don't like each other, what have you. And then it's like, try me and see what happens. Well, okay, well, he lost his life, but now guess what? You're on trial. And that's just what happens, at the end of the day. So your
Yeah.
best bet is not to try to beat the case later, is to just not be in the situation.
So I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna try to be as unbiased as possible because most of y'all already know my feelings on it. Um, should he have been in the space? No, but you all know how people are, right? When you want to get your lit back, you're gonna go into the space. You're gonna go into your ops territory. You're gonna play those away games, and that's what he was doing. He was playing an away game. He saw exactly what happened. He saw this guy they had altercation with or whatever. He wanted to get his lit back, not physically, but he was just trying them. He was gonna sit there and let him know, look, you can't tell me what to do. Get out my face, or I'm going to resort to such and such measures if you don't, if you touch me. He knew what he was doing. This could have all been avoided at the end of the day. And see, this is the stuff that even, some of you adults do, even on this application, some of you adults do the same exact thing. You play these away games, you go in spaces where your op is, and you try them. So he was testing the waters. That's what he was doing. He was simply testing the waters.
And then it's like,
Pause.
The problem is the
Pause. Hold
knife,
on.
though. The knife changes everything.
Exactly. You're
He can
testing
test
the
the
water.
waters.
This is the
They have said
same
it is
shit.
not a knife. Y'all need to stop calling it that.
One
They
second.
found the knife under the bleachers with the
Yes,
blood
they
on it.
did. Exactly. You're testing the waters and you have a weapon. This is the same shit with Chud the Builder. Both of them need to be held accountable. And he's white and one is black. So both of them, these are anecdotal situations that has nothing really to do with the black community. This is the personal issue with their own disabilities and mental health and their own inability to control themselves out in public. That's where we need to get. And stop using race as a way to justify his behavior simply because he's black and you're black, or he's white and you're white. This is inflammatory. But go off. Thank you for being here, El Norma, because we do need some diverse voices up here. And shout out to Miss Mahala, who is biracial, who was a track star. Shout out to Dominique, who lives in and works in politics in DC. Shout out to BT, who breeds politics. Shout out to Steph, who breeds politics. Shout out to Star for actually knowing how the jury selection process works. Shout out to Gigi. She don't sound like she own one, but everybody here, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the YouTube, and let's have a real conversation. A real conversation. And at the end of the day, my perception is we need to take race out of this. Even though it is about race, we need to go ahead and fine tune and find these little needles in the haystack to focus on these individuals, regardless of their race. All right, go off. Who's next to speak?
Hey, Donna, I just want to say one thing. Have you ever been to Frisco, Texas?
I have not, but guess where I've been at recently?
Okay.
Hold on, Steph.
I'm listening.
I was just in Argentina. And me being in Argentina and not seeing not one single black folks, I finally realized what white people felt in America when they go to these black communities. I didn't grow up around you. I don't see nobody that looked like me. I felt completely unsafe. I felt like my life was in danger. And so I empathize because now I know what it's like to be in an environment where I'm not understood and people don't have a tolerance to understand me.
I actually lived in Frisco. So I'm very, very familiar with that area. Um, and it is majority white. There is somewhat of a mixed crowd. I'm trying to look up actually the facts, was it, were they rival teams or what have you, which it looks like from what I saw
They
that they
were.
didn't.
They were. And
Yeah, right.
there were no prior altercation. They didn't know each other at all. So apparently Karmelo knew somebody at that school and was hanging out with them. And that's why he was underneath that tent. And he could not be underneath his tent, his own school tent, because he was suspended. In the authorities, his coaches and his teammates knew he was suspended. He wasn't even there to compete. He had no right to be there at all. Now, you have a right to be in public places, but you got the school saying he wasn't even supposed to be there. And that's it. You're guilty. If you weren't supposed to be there and the school say you were suspended, no matter what happened, who started it, your ass is guilty. End of the discussion.
I have a question. So, was he suspended from school, or was he suspended from participating in that track meet?
Apparently, he was suspended from school. And even if he was suspended from participating in the track meet itself, it still don't give him no right to be there. You're suspended from it. Why would you waste resources and waste time to go there?
Oh, Denard, are you saying he couldn't be there as a spectator?
No,
why couldn't he?
Because listen,
I think he could be there.
No, when you're suspended, you cannot attend. Suspension means you can't even be a spectator. You are not allowed to be
at
there.
all. Like if I got, and I remember it from my school, bitch, if I got suspended, even if I wasn't playing on the team, I couldn't go to no school functions at all. You're suspended. You lose all privileges. It don't matter if you paying for it. It don't matter if you're a part of the team or not. You lose all privileges when you're suspended. You lose those privileges even if you got in-school suspension as well. From what I know, at least in the state of Florida.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem for him.
And that's
even if
also
he wasn't
another.
suspended, if he was skipping school that day, he lost his privileges to attend the after-school events. You don't get to do that. That's a privilege.
If he was a spectator, he would have been in the spectator stands. That's where his designated area would have been. The more pressing issue was he in a tent, and why, and then asked to leave, didn't, and then said, well, try me and see what happened, as he's reaching in his bag for a knife. So I'm just questioning how. I mean, prayers to the brother. I hope he gets off, but I'm just trying to see, like, with the facts in the case, is it really even realistic to think that he will, with the events that happened?
Is y'all cool? It don't matter
Are you
if he
cool?
was there or not. If somebody touches you and walks in your personal space, you have the right to defend yourself. That's what we're talking about. With all these other things, now I didn't know if he was suspended. I need somebody to verify that because I think that's a white lie. But if it's true, then yeah, he wasn't supposed to be there. Period.
You don't have the right to use excessive force, though.
True.
Yeah,
but y'all didn't say that.
So
I was
BG,
saying
you can
so let me
tussle
ask you.
with them, but you can't stab them in the heart.
Yeah, I'm with y'all on that.
Hold on, BT. So you said something about personal space. So was he the space invader, or did they invade his space?
They were.
How? Okay, so you see, so basically, you're telling me that because you said something about like when you were at school, it was okay for you to go up under the rivals' personal space, under their tents, and all of that. So you're telling me, him seeing his op under a tent.
Yes, he did not go over there messing with them. Being under a tent is not someone's personal space. They went and walked up on him and pushed him in his personal space. He was sitting down. They were standing over them, balls in his face. Okay, that's personal space.
not what he did.
That was provoked. That was provoking.
I
That
mean,
was
and
that.
to
What
me,
he
they
did
don't
was
have the.
provoking.
But who are they to like? Why didn't they go get a coach or another staff member, whatever? Like, who are they to tell him that he can't be there?
But see, that's not what it's going to be like in the eyes of the law. Y'all know that, right? All this shit we sit
I
here
don't
saying on
know.
this stage is not. You do not have the right to walk in anything, instigate, provoke, and then say self-defense. It's not no self-defense because all of that could have been avoided. Him sitting down with his hand in the bag and you telling me, I dare you to touch me. You already got your hand
That's
on a
not how it
knife.
happened. You just painted it so much worse. His hands was
Listen,
not in the bag already.
so when did he go get the knife? After he was pushed?
Yes.
Okay, so you still came into a situation and provoked it.
You didn't
So when did
instigate, but you said instigate and provoked it.
he did when he went
How did
over
he instigate?
there?
We all know what instigating is. We black.
Okay,
How did
whatever.
he instigate? Please tell me. Because just going under
She's
that tent
acting
is
like
not
his
instigating.
presence wasn't exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're
Y'all
trying to
gotta
say.
understand. So y'all mean to tell me that y'all would let y'all sons just go somewhere where they know they're not liked and say that he have every right? Because I would not tell my kids that makes sense. I don't give a fuck how much right I feel like my kids have to be in a space. But if you know that there's someone in that space that can take you out of your body to want to do something and change your whole life as a 17-year-old, I would rather you not go over there. I would not tell my kids, son, that was okay.
May I jump in for a second? That's why a lot of men, a lot of our black men are in prison. Because if we are going to sit here and act like what happened was okay or it was cool, and yet he's going to sit in prison for who knows how many years, and we say, oh, he was justified. If he was justified, he wouldn't be in jail. He did go over there. He
That's
was
not true.
suspended.
It's plenty of people who went to jail who
Can
were
I finish?
justified.
Please stop cutting me off. You continue to do that. I don't do it to you. First of all, when you get suspended from school, you are not allowed on the property. You don't get to go to the track events, and most of the time, to get to the backyard or the field, you have to go through the school. I don't know why this school don't have a metal detector because the schools out here in Philadelphia do. So he came there with a knife. What are you walking around with a knife for, little boy? And then you went in the area that you know don't nobody like you, and then you agitated him because you knew you was ready to fight. He shouldn't have been there. He did exactly what he wanted to do. And now he's going to get exactly what he's going to get. And I think any black man that was smart will right now to their sons and tell them don't ever make a decision like this. It's going to affect them for the rest of their life. Because as they were saying earlier, it will be on his criminal history. It is, if he ever think about if he does get out, going to some kind of elite school, they're not going to accept him. Even an elite college, they're not going to accept them. Even trying to get a good job, they're not going to accept them. Okay, this is on his record, unless he get it expunged forever, and good luck on that because that takes years for that to even
Girl,
happen.
you can't get
This
no murder
court,
expunged. Murder, you can't get
yeah,
no violent
it's
crimes
just
expunged.
maybe 20, 40 years down the line, he pay a lot of
No,
money. Maybe
murder,
he'll
you
be
can never
there.
get that. No, it won't happen.
Yes,
Never.
up and stuff. His
No.
life is ruined. Just ruins. And we cannot sit here and promote that it's okay. I can't even believe to hear a black man saying he did the right thing. So why is he going to sit in prison for multiple years if he did the right thing? Women, that's why women Star, you 100% right. Talk to your sons because these black men might not care. They might say you had every right to go stab that nigga in the heart or even bring a gun to school and shoot him up because you're defending yourself. What happened to just getting beat up? Or what happened to just staying away from people like Star said that don't like you? Everybody want to be tough. Look what tough got him. And I am not going to sit here and act like it's okay. It's not okay. That's somebody's son. Daddy might be like, go ahead, you defended yourself. He might not even care because he probably ain't even take care of you anyway. Ain't no mother gonna sit here and tell her son it's okay to go to school when you ain't supposed to even be there and go kill someone with a knife. Why is you even carrying a knife? I can't wait. When my kids get home, I'm gonna have a whole conversation with my son. And he would never do nothing like that. He ain't violent. But check up on your kids. See how they feel. They getting bullied. My kids got beat up every day. He didn't pick up no goddamn knife and go to school and say, I'm gonna stab this nigga to death. And if he did, his father ain't gonna say, you did a well job. Good job. That is the most disgusting thing I think I ever heard. And I'm going on mute. That's
Now,
a damn shame.
what?
That little boy, both their lives are ruined. Both of them. This guy is killed, and his life is ruined for the rest of his life. And I'm not going to say well done.
Yeah, and like the statement of, and this is what witnesses had stated. He said, touch me and see what happens. What he should have said was, don't touch me repeatedly. Just don't touch me. Because then that is a direct like boundary setting versus, and then self-defense would have a stronger argument to make.
And that's why it's being compared to the situation with Chud the Builder. Both of them need to go to jail, in my book. And I want to make it clear, though I'm prioritizing removing race from this situation and trying to get people to see it as an individual anecdotal situation that needs not to happen, regardless if it's Asian, black, white, Jewish, it doesn't matter. My whole point is, at this point in time, if there's additional details that the defense have not released, we need to hear those. Because myself and the public is convinced that Karmelo is guilty and he needs to serve time, but not his entire life in prison. His defense is not strong enough. But again, we got to wait and see what comes out in court. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm rooting and I'm hoping that he could actually form a postable defense, because right now it's weak as fuck. And I'm going on mute.
I think his defense is more than strong. I think his supporters aren't strong enough. And the people who don't support him, but support that white boy going up to him and pushing on him
The only
with them
way,
other five.
but
No,
BT,
no, you hold on. You hold on. Because all of y'all agree. This is crazy. GG talking about she gonna tell her kids don't do. Y'all keep forgetting he was surrounded by five white folk telling him, all larger than him. This boy is 5'8". They were 6'2", 250s, muscle workout, surrounded him and pushed him. And y'all done reversed it to make him the bad guy. This is
I still think you're missing the overarching point, though.
Wait. Let's correct
Furthermore,
these facts. No, BT.
Furthermore,
BT. Let's correct
you
the
can
facts.
you can't correct them when I'm done.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Furthermore, when Gigi talking about, and she gonna tell her kids this and that, as if I don't know what y'all ghetto sales got going on in Philly. In the South, everybody carry knives and guns. Carrying knives and guns is normal down here. Everybody got a pocket knife or a Swiss Army knife. Everyone. If you don't have a Swiss Army knife, you look crazy in the South. So when you say this thing, he shouldn't even have had no knife. And pocket knives have saved people's lives for many other things. If you ever need a can opener, they got one on there too. So we're not gonna act like he shouldn't have had that. Again, I don't even know if y'all right about the suspension, because I can't even find that. Y'all are going with narratives you done heard, and we ain't proved yet. So I'm with y'all. If somebody wrong, they wrong.
BT.
But when I see Hannah and them in the chat talking and Destiny talking about he shouldn't have did this and that, what would y'all would have did if y'all getting surrounded by five grown looking white boys?
Not go into the fucking tent. That's the point.
So hold on a minute, Gigi. What you said was right. I agree with you. He I would have ran. Everybody else was wrong.
Hold on. How was I wrong when I said that I would have never went? See, it's about y'all so busy. This is the way the world is set up. They're so busy finding solutions versus prevention. I would have prevented the whole situation and not went over there. You can't just ignore that part. And he would have never been surrounded by five big guys, 250 pounds.
But how are y'all sitting here? I mean, I can agree with some of the things and the logics, but y'all are speaking as adults, and this is a fucking teenager. Like that's where I'm having a hard time, really kind of like, okay, going with y'all saying, like, these are fucking children. And then on top of it, it was fucking raining. You keep talking about, oh, I would have never did that shit. What the fuck would you was gonna do? Just stand in the fucking rain?
So you gonna tell me at a track meet with multiple teams, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other teams out there, that was the first tent that I was gonna tell my child to pick?
It could have happened in another it really could have been a situation where that was the first hit he went in, and that's the reason why he was putting the fuck down. Instead of just making this fucking narrative as though that he intentionally did something.
Whoever car is that, please remove that person out of here.
No, don't remove it. My bad. That was me. My bad.
Oh, my bad.
I just still think like the advice or to act like it's okay doesn't prevent these sort of things from happening in the future. I think what Star said, the best solution is prevention in the first place. If it was raining and you weren't supposed to be at the meet or you were supposed to be in class or however the fucking scenario goes, you should have kept your goofy ass away from motherfuckers that you didn't fuck with in the first place. That's just like the facts. You just should have not done that. And then furthermore, you should have never said, touch me and see what happens. You should have just said, don't touch me. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter what our opinions are in here or how much we want to ride for him. What's going to matter is what happens in the court of law at the end of the day. And none of this would have happened if he would have just prevented it from happening himself, which he had every opportunity to do so on multiple occasions.
And also, wait, BT. I also want to correct something. It is reported, according to public information, specifically the sites that these schools use for these athletes to be recruited. On that official site with all of Karmelo Anthony's records and stats, it says he's 5'11" and 160 pounds. It says Austin Metcalf is 6 feet and 200 pounds. So for you to make him 5'8" and 130 and this other one 250 pounds, I think that definitely plays a role and could definitely be used in the defense, but we have to be factual about it. And to further prove that Karmelo Anthony is not 5'8", Jedediah Brown, who's a convicted felon, spoke with his mother and his father and also helped get him and release him from jail when he got bonded out. And I seen Karmelo Anthony standing next to him. Jedediah Brown is 6'1", and Karmelo Anthony is in fact 5'11". So it's not like he was like this poor defenseless kid. This goes back to show that they say black people niggas can't fight, niggas can't swim. It's because our parents don't put us in these self-defense classes to the point to where now we got a nigga that's stabbing up somebody and running away after you done unalive somebody. You unalive and the nigga dead. Why is you running away?
You gotta. We're receiving reports that he was actually not suspended from school. He actually had his track bag with him and so forth and so on. So he was not suspended. Now, Miss is 100% correct because Burbage does. Who's talking? Oh, it's Pepe. I'm sorry, Pepe. Burbage does matter, right? So instead of him saying, Miss is 100% correct when he said, if you do this, I'm going to do this, then or you will regret whatever. That doesn't show that shows there's an imminent threat somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Howsoever, if he would have just said, don't do this, I fear for my life, please don't touch me, then that would have shown, okay, yeah, he pretty much just putting out there that, yeah, I fear for my life, don't touch me. Similar to what these adults do in
the reports too, he never stated that he was in fear for his life, unfortunately, too. He did say that it was self-defense, but he did not, that's another key thing. You definitely need to state that you're in fear for your life.
Is his age going to play a factor? What kid is going to say that?
Well, does his age, BT, play a factor in if he's being tried as an adult or not? Because when I checked, he's being tried as an adult. So when you guys, I'm talking to BT and we have a long-standing history because he's an idiot.
Hold on, y'all. We're on YouTube. We don't have to yell. We're on YouTube. This is live.
Take the big mic out, Lee.
Okay, not everybody has to jump on. You don't have to add in your little exactly.
Wait, hold on. And before
I
you
can
get
if I want to.
one second, Steph. Before,
And that's exactly what happened at the track meet. Touch me and see what happened.
mute these bitches, okay? I'm trying to say something real quick. We have diversity on the stage. We have some white folks that y'all know on this app, and I would like to hear from them too. So let's not hog the mic and hog the stage or disrespect people for having a difference of opinion. Pepe is in the building and we know him and so forth. So I do want to diversify the conversation with other people to show that we're diverse here and that we respect diverse opinions about this matter. So continue, Miss, and let's open the conversation to someone who has not already spoken.
No, Pepe can go. Welcome, Pepe.
Hello. Well, I mean, I've been listening a little bit. As far as the all-white jury, I don't even know what the demographics are in that area of Texas, if it's mostly white. But when it comes to the whole thing, I mean, as far as the background information about both of the boys, Karmelo and the fellow that was killed, it didn't seem like there was any real dirt on them. Like either of them had a history of being like troublemakers or bad. So I'll just say this: I don't have all the facts, but the fact that somebody, that Karmelo plunged a knife in in his chest and killed him, that's such a bizarre thing to happen that I don't know if you could avoid not getting arrested or could avoid getting arrested for murder and having to stand trial, just because that's such especially like at a suburban high school. I don't know. I mean, I'm personally not passing judgment until facts come out in the case, and then then I'll do it.
And I appreciate
So
that.
now, because YouTube listening, you don't want to be racist.
Hold on, give me 1 second, BT, and I appreciate that. We have been discussing the facts, and I do want to say that Carmelo Anthony's school record has been subpoenaed into court, and it will definitely be used against him. I also seen a clip. I seen a clip of one of his classmates and somebody who know him personally, go to the same school. She specifically said, and I can pull it up if you guys don't believe me. She said that Karmelo, I know him for fighting, but pulling a knife out to unalive somebody is not like him. So he has a history based upon witness statements from his own school and more than likely school suspension record and so forth for fighting. And now there's also speculation, and has not been proven or presented to the court of law yet, that he was suspended for bringing that same knife to school. I just want to land there. Does anybody have anything else to say about that before I get to some of these live tweets from outside the courthouse?
I did just want to say one thing, was suspended or not, that you cannot bring weapons
There are a few
on
things.
on
Suspended or not
campus.
suspended is not a key
Normal, let
element.
her finish, bro.
I didn't hear her speaking at all. Somebody else was speaking?
Yeah, I was just saying whether or not he was suspended. I don't believe that you can bring weapons on any school campus event.
I agree. Those are problems. But this case will come down to the interaction between Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf and the 5 elements of self-defense in Texas. So, in my legal opinion, the words that Carmelo Anthony used, touch me and see what happens, pretty much eliminate the self-defense. Now that can be argued in court, and we'll see what happens. But I'll read you what the elements are. The core elements of self-defense. This is in Texas because it varies state by state. Unlawful force. The threat you face, this would be the threat faced by Carmelo Anthony, must be illegal. You cannot claim self-defense against lawful force, such as a police officer making a valid arrest. 2, immediate necessity. The danger must be imminent, real, and happening right now. You cannot use force to prevent a vague future threat or to retaliate for a past event. Three, reasonable belief. An ordinary objective person, as they say, like a reasonable person, in your exact situation would also believe that force was required to stop the threat. Verbal insults or offensive words alone are never justify the use of physical force. Now, there's additional for deadly force, which is what Carmelo Anthony used. If you escalate your response to deadly force, the law sets a much higher standard. Deadly force is only justified if you meet the three core elements of I just read, follow proportionality. You must reasonably believe deadly force is required to protect against an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. And additionally, alternatively, it can be used to deadly force can be used to prevent the immediate commission of aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault. Okay, that doesn't apply. So the only additional element here is proportionality. In other words, you can only use deadly force against deadly force. So if Austin Metcalf had a weapon, then it might be justified to use a weapon. Might be. Also, you lose self-defense if you provoke, and I would say that saying "touch me and see what happens" is a provocative challenge. Criminal activity, you were actively committing a crime more serious than a traffic violation. It's possible that possessing a knife on school property is such an activity. No right to be present. You were trespassing or had no legal right to be at that location. I think that could be argued, but I think it would probably be dismissed. So the whole problem here is the escalation and the proportionality. And they might even argue that he was committing a crime by holding that knife. So I say he's got a very slender chance of getting out of this with self-defense. Thanks for letting me share that.
El Nomo, I think your point of the proportionality is where I see the brunt of the problem. But this whole notion that he needed to retreat, Texas is a stand your ground state. And it removes any legal duty to you to retreat when facing a threat. I'm done speaking.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with proportionality, though.
No, it
Proportionality.
doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay,
I
why'd
was
you
I
bring
was
it up?
addressing 2 points.
Okay, so what about proportionality?
I agreed with you on proportionality.
I get it. Okay. And right, he's not required to retreat, which you are, I believe, in California. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah, and that's a
Yeah, not
different
too much on
state.
Cali.
That's a different state. I will say that different states interpret self-defense laws completely different. Also, I want to say there's speculation that it was not a knife out of his backpack, even though I recall mainstream media reporting that people are saying that it was a spike from the tent. So that changes the dynamics because
No, that's not true. It is a knife. It is a knife.
It is not a knife.
That I don't know why you're trying to do that for I guess,
But I did thought
the
it was like
narrative, but it's
something from
gonna
a
come out
shoe.
in the evidence in court that it was a knife.
But I
You
thought it was
can't you
something that
cannot that
It's
a
already
track
came out.
spike
They said it
isn't
wasn't a knife though. They
a
said it
track
was.
miss.
spike isn't long enough to kill someone.
I'm
And
not
that
saying it was a track spike. I'm saying it wasn't no knife
that
on
was
paper.
do you know a track spike is on an all-weather track is a quarter of an inch long.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying it wasn't no knife. I don't think it was a
It
track
was
spike.
a knife. They have the knife.
No,
Did
they
you
don't.
look? Did you look?
Yeah,
Can somebody put it in the chat since you have it?
Yeah, I'll put it in the
post it,
chat.
Nick, please.
Okay, and another thing, there's this because we definitely want to stick to the law, and we just got the 5 elements of claiming self-defense. So what about the allegation? And right now, it's still an allegation that and I'm gonna do a little bit more research to see if he was actually suspended, or was he scheduled to compete during that particular track meet? Was Carmelo Anthony suspended from school. So I'm looking up public information. Oh, and I see right here, yes, Texas student Karmelo Anthony was expelled from Fresco High School following his arrest for the fatal stabbing of a fellow student. So if he was expelled, why was he actually allowed to graduate? That seems like a privilege. And it says, despite the exposure, his prior academic standing at 3.7 GPA allowed him to receive his high school diploma, though he was not permitted to participate in the graduation ceremony. How can you be expelled and actually receive your diploma? That seems like his parent, his family, or somebody has some type of connection to the school officials. Who is the principal at Fresco? I'm going to see that Fresco Continental High School. Who is the principal there? I'm going to see that because that definitely matters. Who is the principal?
I guess if he completed all of his requirements before this whole horrible situation, maybe they gave him his diploma.
No, and I hate to do this. I hate to do it. The principal name is Kiara Henderson. That's a black woman. Just like a black woman allowed him to get out of jail. So let me look at, this woman, Kiara Henderson, I guarantee you she's connected to Karmelo Anthony's mother and father. This lady allowed him to graduate and get his diploma even though he was expelled. From what I know, once you're expelled, that shit is null and void. You're expelled, you probably can go to an alternative school and graduate, but you still, So he's received a lot of privilege from these black women. The principal, Kiara Henderson, the judge that allowed him out of jail on bail, and his father. Let me make sure. I think his father is an attorney. His mother is a public official as well. Let me see.
And then, did you find anything that he was suspended during the incident?
I did find some information here.
So his mother, Dominique, I want to hear that, but give me 1 second. Let me put the facts in. Karmelo Anthony's father, Andrew Anthony, go on mute, somebody, worked as a financial manager at a Chevrolet dealership in Frisco, Texas, before taking an unpaid leave of absence following his son's legal case. His mother, Kyla Hayes, is a stay-at-home mother who looks after the family's younger children. So his father pretty much got ostracized and his mother stay at home. So again, there's a lot of privilege going on here. And I think Frisco High School is predominantly black, if I'm not mistaken, and Steph would know more about that.
No.
It's not?
No, it's not. No.
Demographic.
It's hardly any blacks, bro. It's a white racist country. But now, counting. But the Indians, red dots from India, have been taking it over.
Yeah, it's majority Asian population, along significant white, Hispanic, and African American. Okay, but the principal is an African American woman. That is, and let me see, Karmelo Anthony school record. Let me see if there's actually some public information about his disciplinary record in school. Karmelo Anthony held the 3.7 GPA and completed all of his academic requirements at Continental High School in Fresco, Texas, where he was a captain of the track and football team. However, his disciplinary record led to exposure proceedings following that stabbing. He was the captain. That's what I'm saying. If you're the captain of a football and track team, why are you over there? And you're the captain. Like, it's the power dynamics, and you're over there by yourself. You're supposed to be leading your team. So even though it's a public space, like, your responsibility, you're required to lead your fellow classmates and teammates into a victory. And instead, you're over there antagonizing in a fight. And let's be clear, the fact that he's over there under these people's tent means he definitely was the antagonist. So after you're over there, it doesn't matter. It does matter what happens to you afterwards, but at the end of the day, you shouldn't have been there. And I'm gonna go on mute. Go ahead, Dominique, and tell me what you had.
Thank you. So I did find some information as the publicly available reporting. Apparently, there was no verified evidence that he was suspended before that April 2nd, 2025 track meet. So, yeah, there's no verified evidence where it shows that he was suspended from school or even from the track meet. It does state that he had no prior criminal record. He was a student athlete at Frisco Centennial High School. And let's see, it does not report any pre-existing school suspension before that actual incident did occur.
It's all going to come down to what happened on the field that day between Anthony and Metcalf.
I agree with that.
I agree too.
It really is. And I honestly think the core issue here is his parents should have taught him, put him in self-defense classes because, like, you know, like niggas be happy. Like, if I learn how to do a judo chop, bitch, I want to test it on somebody as quick as possible. Last thing I'm gonna be thinking about is a goddamn weapon. And then he ran away like a little bitch after he stabbed him. So he definitely was a puss ass nigga for that. And as far as his school suspension record and stuff, he was a minor. So that's not going to be made public, even though it's been reported that the prosecutor's office subpoenaed his school record, and that's going to come out in court. And I believe that's going to come out in court within the next day or two. And like, I hope there's some type of other facts that they can just explode our minds with to prove his innocence, because right now, according to the information and belief that we had, you know, I don't give a fuck if
I
black,
think.
white, Chug
I'm
the
sorry, I thought you were
builder.
done.
No, black, white, Chug the builder, or Carmelo Anthony. Your ass need to be behind bars for the shit that you did.
And as a whole, I don't think it does us any good to like try to justify it. I think it does us more good to try to learn from it and also know and learn the laws and what is happening and what you have the rights to do. There wasn't a deadly force, although Metcalf didn't have his rights to put his hands on him at all. And so, you know, that could have been prosecuted as well. But obviously he's dead now, you know, but there wasn't a threat necessarily on his life. And the statement that he made, he should have just said, "Don't touch me," and left it at that.
So I don't know about y'all, but I'm from somewhere where I've seen people get beat to death. People get beat to death all the time. Some people get beat to death from one punch. We call it a one hitter quitter. So I'm not finna let y'all act like he was not at risk or like it was just that. Especially when it was 5 against 1
No
potentially.
one's acting like that. And
5
additionally,
against
we
1.
know what happened after the punch or the push was landed. He was still okay enough to continue grabbing the knife and stabbing
Well,
the other person. So
thank
it
God
was
he had
not an
that
issue.
weapon,
And he
so he
already
could
ran
prevent
away.
that.
He could
But
have
if he
ran
didn't have
away.
that weapon, we would have
Could
a
have ran
lot,
away in the first place
and y'all
too.
would not be saying this same
But
stuff.
what I'm
He
saying
could have
though
gotten
is
beat to death.
what I'm saying is this specific situation at a public track meet, there wasn't a need for excessive force.
That's the one thing that I've tried to wrap my mind around, is because it was I could understand if it was like a house party or something. There's no adults there. If let's say you get jumped or beat up, yeah, you could possibly lose your life. But this was at a public track meet where it sounds like there were cops there in the vicinity. There's obviously going to be teachers and parents, and it would be an incredibly unlikely place for someone to like, I guess it's like throw a knockout punch or let alone like beat the shit out of you. Especially because there'd be so many witnesses, including parents and school officials. It's just that's the whole thing that's bizarre to me. Is I can't recount a scenario I can think of where two people who don't know each other, maybe they have like a dispute or something, but then the reaction after, they either touch him or push him is you plunge a knife in someone's chest. It's like, that's basically like shooting someone in the chest with a gun. It's a high likelihood you're going to die from that. And I don't, it's bizarre. That's why I'm just going to wait and see what the justification or what what Carmelo Anthony's defense team says was the reason why he acted the way he did.
Me too.
It's nothing like.
Hold on, but BT, I feel like you gaslighting. Talking about beat to death, it's highly unlikely. Let's be clear. And he ran away, so he could have just walked away and tucked his tail because he ran away anyways. Also, somebody on YouTube, shout out to Undeb, she made a point to say that Karmelo was actually invited underneath that tent by fellow students at Memorial High School that he knew, and Austin and them wanted to assert power and control dominancy over him and so forth. But my whole thing is, if you're the captain of this team and you're the
Ain't no but.
go ahead. What'd you say?
You telling me he was invited, and y'all been in here acting like that man went and invaded personal space and was instigating, antagonizing, and he was invited by somebody under the tent.
But you can also be uninvited. So once you're invited and then uninvited, you probably should leave.
BT,
But he didn't have to.
BT, you're not
Yeah,
gonna
he didn't have to. He didn't have to still stop him. But yeah.
like y'all at the BT. I get what you're saying when you were growing up and things, but in today, for one, we're not even taking into consideration where he's from. He's from one of the most racist states ever. He's a black boy in probably a more predominantly white county or city or wherever. Like, it's not, you're not going to sit here and tell me that he could not have made a different decision where he did not even end up in that tent, and this boy would not have been unalive if he just would have took other precautions and things and just moved away.
Well, I'm
He
myself
took
an
himself
adult, and I've made bad decisions. So I'm not going to
BT.
put the pressure on no
BT, no,
kid
BT,
and
I'm
saying
sick of
he
you.
could have made a
Hold
better
on,
decision.
I'm
This boy
I'm
is a
sick of
child.
you. BT, this is
He
why
is a child.
we don't have
Y'all
reparations.
niggas could have made
Hold
better
on.
decisions last week.
Hold on.
Did you?
This is why we don't have reparation, because we put support amongst the wrong situations in the wrong people. Carmelo Anthony does not deserve to be positioned as the voice for the First Amendment or the Second Amendment, nor for black people facing systemic racism. We put hope, aspiration, support around the wrong niggas, and then we would go to the people. Y'all protested for Carmelo Anthony when he was bad. This is why we don't have justice. We're advocating for the wrong individual. So I really want to focus on him as an individual, regardless of race. We don't put it behind the right individuals. And then by the time we do, people looking at us like we making everything about race. Karmelo does not deserve the race card in this situation. I stand on that. And until they present more evidence, that is the defense, to prove me wrong, that's where I'm fucking standing. And I can't believe you over here saying this shit. You have no evidence, you talking about it as a spike. I see right here on Twitter, the lawyer keeps on saying that having a knife under 5.5 inches is not a crime. So it was a fucking knife. Stop gaslighting, BT.
He didn't say knife. He said a weapon. It was a I'm not. A knife specifically has to be longer than 5.5 inches. Maybe you didn't know that, brother.
Sir, I'm looking, and I'm going to pull it up on my screen right here, right now. Karmelo
Pull it up,
Anthony's,
please.
This is somebody in the courtroom, Marianne Martinez. Karmelo Anthony's attorney, Mike Howard, picture below, a Jewish man, keeps repeating to potential jurors that under Texas law, it is not illegal to have a knife under 5.5 inches in the public space. Okay? Anthony was armed with a knife in the day he unalived Austin Metcalf at a high school track meeting. And if it wasn't a knife, his lawyer would not keep repeating that to bring that into the defense. So it was a knife. Let's stop this.
There's also in the police report too.
The fuck?
There's in a police report that they found the knife the same day in the bleachers. He tossed it, and the other kids saw where it was tossed, and they found it the same day by Officer Schultz. So yeah, I mean it's a lot. So firstly, in the report also they claim that there was a kid who did know Anthony on that team, but he never spoke or came forward to the police at that moment in time. It is a lot of witnesses, which hasn't been revealed yet because most of them are children, teens. So of course the trial they'll end up showing this, but there is a possibility that Karmelo went over there to speak to a friend. However, once he was addressed by Metcalf, they went back and forth, and then he told him to touch him, and supposedly he touched him, according to Anthony. And then he said, "Punch me! I dare you to punch me." This is according to the police report. And then supposedly Metcalf tried to grab him and move him, and then he shoved the knife in his chest. Now again, he shouldn't have touched him. However, when you're provoking someone to mutual combat, essentially, you don't have self defense or even stand your ground. At that point, you're actively saying we're going to go at this. And I know they're minors or juveniles rather, but you're provoking a fight that you are escalating to use that force. And that in that case, generally speaking, you cannot claim self defense. So I am curious of how he's going to defend his actions and let alone bring the knife to school.
And also to the person who said making a black boy be the victim when he was simply a child, we've already considered that. Even the jury is considering the facts, even if he's found guilty, that he's a child. That's things that needs to be discussed at a sentencing hearing. And he's not even been found guilty yet. So we're dealing with the public facts as we have them. I want to wake up tomorrow and hear news that something else just blew my mind to make this defensive shit. When it first happened, I was like, damn, you just stabbed this boy in the heart. Was y'all fucking? Like dead ass. And like, really, who does this? This is inhumane behavior at a track meet. And you know we got school to prison pipeline.
I think we have to be fair. Like they both were kids. So if we give one of them the benefit of being a kid, then we have to give the other one the benefit of being a kid. So if they're both kids at the time, they're both 17, right? And so the one who's going into the tent obviously was asked to leave, right? He doesn't have to leave. He could have just stood his ground, don't touch me, or whatever. And then if they would have escalated from there, he would have had a stronger defense claim. But then because that kid thinking in a kid's mind, well, I'm going to push him, he got his life taken as a kid also. So I think it's tragic on both sides. I think it's just it's tragic on both sides because the other, family they have to grieve their son. And now Carmelo's family has to also kind of I wouldn't necessarily say it's grieving, but this is a process. It's a lot of turmoil. It's a lot of situations that now he has to deal with because of this situation. So I think it's really, really sad on both sides. And that's why my initial kind of point was, I was asking about the self-defense claim and things like that, because I really do feel like this was a preventable situation. And it's really unfortunate that it escalated. And I don't want Karmelo to have to go to jail and all of that. But I don't think it does us any favor to really make excuses. I think the best thing that we can do is learn from this situation.
And I want to add that somebody going to prison and obviously you don't have loved ones that's been through that. It is a form of grieving. You got a real body, a real person that could have freedom and potential and opportunity, and they're in the custody. You can't even touch them. You can't see them when you want to. It is a form of unalivement to be in prison. I do want to clarify that. And now we have someone in my
Okay, thank you.
We have someone in my YouTube chat said, "I'm glad I'm a young geriatric woman that lived through civil rights era, because some of you young people are really in the dark." She also, and this is undeaf, she also stated that the state of Texas unalived more black people than Mississippi and Alabama combined. So and Steph could speak to this, and so can you, Miss. But Miss, I don't know how much of this you can actually speak to when it comes to the mono black experience, because we know you're biracial. I'm not weaponizing that against you. You don't even know what it feels like to have a love and to go to prison. But
that's a lie. Do you forget that when someone's biracial, half of their family, for one, is black, and there's white people that go to jail too?
Yeah, but we just.
So how could I not?
We just found out you don't know that it's a form of, you grieve your loved ones when they go to prison.
I said the reason why I didn't want to say, and I actually stated there's a form of grieving. I said it's a form of grieving. I didn't want to say grieving because I don't want to be disrespectful to people who have lost loved ones. And that obviously includes black people who we have lost loved ones who are black. And when there's a death of someone that you can't speak to or what have you, I don't want to be disrespectful to people who have lost people that are close to them that have died. I'm not saying that it's not a form of grieving. I actually said that it is a process and it is something that they have to go through.
Yeah, it is. And you also grieve the life that they would have had, right? All the dreams and aspirations and all the pouring into. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, but there's something else that at the end of the day, what Miss said about a learning experience sometimes the things that people go through, it's not about them, it's about others. And this is a cautionary tale on both sides. On both sides, teach your kids that being a bully can cost you your life. And also, when you know that you have an issue, totally, totally choose not to insert yourself in that situation because it could go awry. So on both sides, there's something to learn. I'm done speaking.
Look at that, Steph. We're going to end on
Look
a
at
high
that,
note.
man.
Look
Look at
at
that,
Yeah, I
that.
agree with you, Steph. I agree with you, Steph, on that. And that's the thing. Like speak on it real quickly. I was saying that I try to look at it from both perspectives. If it was my son or cousin or whoever Metcalf, I would have told him, hey, just back off. If he's trying to stay here, we'll deal with the higher ups, teachers, whatever, get him to move. Especially if there's a back and forth because it shouldn't have got to that level. And Metcalf and Austin, I'm sorry, Anthony, being there by himself, right? Because for all we understand, he was by himself. You have this tent with all the players under it. Who belongs under that tent? This oddball that's here who don't typically belong on the tent, which is not legal, of course. But he's a lone wolf. He's by himself, and that could have went bad because the story could be the opposite. The story could be he got pushed out in the bleachers and broke his neck, and then we would say, oh, Austin was wrong because they shouldn't have jumped him or some shit like that. So the bottom line is that it wasn't a good position to be in for either boys to actually gauge each other. It seems like when we have this discussion, a lot of people feel like walking away is not a good option, and I think that's the best option. No one should lose their lives, let alone be harmed for a small dispute like this. But it escalated to this level, and it seems that people exercise their bias to rush to who they want to defend. And I try to be not like that, to be objective as possible. Like I said, I cannot reconcile the idea that someone would be stabbed over a situation like this. If there was just a scuffle, we would having this conversation. We wouldn't have known about the story. If they're both alive in any capacity, we would probably would not be having this story. If they were the same race, we probably would be talking about the story. But for the fact that someone died and the racial component is there, it's like we have to talk about it. But I'll land on saying that I wish that we could have better conflict resolution, especially with people of this age.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And again, I don't want to hear, he was bullied and walked away because he ran once the man was down. Like, that's pussy ass nigga shit. Let's be clear. And I want to continue to land on that. But anybody else want to take the floor? I have about 30 more minutes before I have to organize here and take care of some other things. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I'm going to be talking about this every single day. I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow and the next day until this trial is over. Again, I hope to hear more details from the defense that lets me believe that there's something else. I want him to be found not guilty. I want him to meet the elements under Texas law for self-defense. I want to make that very clear, but it does not seem likely. And it has nothing to do with race. This has everything to do with the law. Okay? We live in 2026. There's no way that this kid should be going and growing up with this Jim Crow ideology. And if so, it's a wonder why Hot Wheels decided to do away with critical race theory. We got to stop pumping this notion of racism and making people believe that this is still the 50s and the 60s and the Jim Crow South if they got to go around and live under this umbrella stuck in a time period that they didn't even live and have no personal experience of to justify why they had to stab up somebody instead of taking an ass whooping. But I yield my mic, and who else got the floor next?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for hosting this discussion. This is definitely a case that I'm going to be following and watching, and honestly trying to learn from. And I think it's it's definitely going to be, I won't say monumental because I think there have been several cases that are kind of similar to this, but I think there's something that we all.
Is it me or did her microphone go out?
But I think it's very, very tragic on both sides.
Yeah, it is. Also, I want to address the comment Stacy said, deny it doesn't seem like you want him not guilty. I do want him not guilty. Listen, I'm here to report the news and report it as I see fit. I want there to be something that I can be excited to come live tomorrow and say, hey, that black man is innocent. I don't want to see no niggas locked up and shit like that, spend the rest of their life in prison. Talking about I got very problematic thoughts. No, you're the problem. You're the same person that coddle and protect these motherfucking demons in our black neighborhoods, Stacy, to the point to where your son probably get recruited to the military, and that's probably best for that joker, so he don't go out there and pull a blicky on somebody or stab up somebody. They need discipline, and I bet you got a single parent household. Fuck you mean? Anyways, I yield my mic. Anybody got anything else to say before I get to these clips that I seen going viral on Twitter about protesters outside of the court? These bitches walking, acting like it's Selma 2.0 and shit, and I'm tired of it.
I don't think nobody is. We don't. This is the thing. None of us want him in jail, but we cannot ignore the fact. We just cannot ignore the fact.
Right, we can't. And somebody said, well, the Chinese man just got out for shooting black boy in the back. I'm going to do a thorough breakdown of all of that. I am, because I'm going to talk from a legal perspective. And if the law got it wrong, then I'm going to join the public outcry and the public fight for it all. And I do believe the law got it wrong, but I need more information before I form an opinion about that. Like, I need more information before I say that the defense is going to win in this particular situation. That's it. Okay. And accountability is something that's really, really big. I'm really big on accountability. I'm the type of person where if I'm 5% wrong in a situation, I'm not going to listen to no narcissist. I'm just going to take the blame just to move away from it and to move from that situation. Give a fuck how wrong I am, how much the other person wrong. You gotta hold yourself accountable. You cannot sit here and say that it's okay with how Karmelo handled this situation and for him to get a slap on the wrist so he can go out and be celebrated and other black people feel like they can do the same thing. And I'm gonna prove that race has nothing to do with this. I feel the same way about Chud the Builder. On his face, he was out there harassing black people, but the factual allegations with what the fuck he did, you cannot decimate and use the First Amendment or self-defense when you premeditatedly did some shit. So these are case-by-case situations and fact specific. And it would be a detriment to society to find Chud the Builder or Karmelo Anthony not guilty based upon the facts we have right now, even though we got to go through the trial. That's why I'm rooting for the defense. I want the defense to convince me.
I agree with that, and I think also I do think that race has it's hard to take race completely because it does play a factor at the end of the day. But a good exercise though for everybody to do is just to imagine if both of the kids were white, and also imagine if both of the kids were black, and think about how you would view this case.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. That's why I keep going back to the Chud the Builder situation, because both of them bitches need, I don't mean to call them that, but y'all know I'm just talking. Both of them need to be held accountable for what they did. And it needs to send a message to the public. Yeah, you got the First Amendment right, but you testing it too much. You know, you going a little bit too far. Because if they're found not guilty, it would pretty much broaden the scope of these laws and create a new case. But like, do you know what America does not need right now is a civil war? By finding Chud the Builder not guilty, by finding Karmelo Anthony not guilty, we would be in a civil war, and we're already headed towards World War III. All Israel got to do is go over there and fuck with Turkey, and they're going to find out we're in World War III. And your president and your
nobody's gonna. Turkey's in NATO, and nobody's gonna mess with Turkey. Turkey's got a huge army. Israel knows who it can mess with and who it can't. Messing with Turkey would be akin to messing with Russia. Israel isn't going to do either one of those.
Exactly, because if they mess with Turkey, Russia and China gonna get involved, and we're in World War III. Am I right or wrong?
You're right about that. Plus, Turkey's in NATO.
And Iran owns all the info. Iran can shut the internet off. That's what people don't understand. So they're using these things. I feel like this is my personal opinion. I feel like we're in this big conspiracy to where it benefits Iran to cause a civil war in America, because now Donald Trump becomes unstable, or whoever the president is. And we can't even focus on what's going on outside because we got internal conflict, and that benefits outsiders for internal conflict. I understand that. And motherfuckers finna be forced draft come December already. Y'all don't understand where we're headed. And when I'm speaking about Chud the Builder or Karmelo Anthony, I'm trying to prevent a civil war. That's my ideology. Because I know where y'all going. Bitch, I'm already out of the country. So should I just shut the fuck up and let this shit happen and not try to give opposition? But anyways, let me, I see a couple of clips went viral. People are antagonizing outside of the court hearings. Let me play this.
Self-defense is not a crime. 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 Self-defense is not a crime.
Did you educate yourself on what is and what is not self-defense before you went out there wasting your time with these banjo fucking drums and shit you're beating on with a white shirt with Karmelo Anthony face on it, and by the time you got home, that bitch was black as tar with all that sweat and that fat underneath your motherfucking body? This is a waste of time. Like, I feel like these people are paid to go out and do this. Why else would you do this? It ain't the pandemic where we can stream Black Lives Matter, everybody getting unemployment. Motherfucker, even white folks joined in. It was like a party out there, you know? Like, what did you educate yourself on what is and what is not self-defense and apply the facts to that, since you want to be the judge, jury, and the executioner? So you're wasting your time, and I'm sick and tired of niggas out here, even if it was a righteous cause. I've been tired of niggas just hooping and hollering and marching since Selma. Anyways, anybody got anything to say about the protesters outside of the courthouse saying self-defense is not a crime? And thank you, Elle, for actually giving us the definition and giving us the 5 factors pursuant to what is considered self-defense and what is not. Educate yourselves on these laws before you go out and do some goddamn shit. Educate yourself about these laws. Okay? Anybody got the floor? Oh, snap. All right. Well, this conversation has ran its course for today. I'm actually going to be back here tomorrow with more news that is reported after I end this video and in this room. I'm going to report what happened afterwards and give you more updates from people that are inside the court. Also, I got people that are actually there that's going to come and speak directly to us based upon what they know happened inside the court throughout this 2-week trial. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me, follow all the moderators, follow Pepe, follow BT. I don't have to open this space up. You guys can open the space up, but I wanted to keep it focused on this case, and I will just join you guys, okay? Let's like, honestly, my whole focal point is taking race out of it. And hopefully that stays the focal point. If not, y'all want to do content and want to antagonize each other, leave me the fuck out of that shit. Period. Because y'all ignorant for that. Anybody got any final thoughts, any questions, any concerns before we get out of here?
I'm out, but I'll do my conclusions. I feel like right now I'm indecisive and making a decision until I feel like he has a mental assessment first. I think that's very necessary for him. And then once we get those results, then we can make a judgment. And I'm going to.
Absolutely. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep coming back for more discussions. We're going to cover this case from start to finish without will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised.
What is in your life's blueprint?